3 o'clock. Oh. All right, I just got my pickup. I am getting on the highway. Oh, crap. All righty, up to speed here. I had rotated my tires when I was at home. I got the suspension done and I changed the tire pressures. And I didn't put enough in this right front. I got a slight tug to the right. So I find myself on the endless journey of trying to find an air pump that actually works, even though I have a little tiny one at the house that I forgot to bring with me. And I really wish I had it now. Such is life. Oof. Something to come on here. Slightest little pull to the right. Howdy, howdy, got my one. Woohoo! I just picked up a load. They got me another one today. Having a little issue with the van. It's drifting to the right. I need to add air to the. Oh, you're talking, please. 100 miles, jeez. Charging, charging. Way. All right, back on the road. I did my suspension swap here last week. I rotated the tires front and rear, and they have different tire pressures. And I adjusted them a little bit. Unfortunately, my right front tire needs a little bit of air, and trying to find an operational air pump is becoming a challenge. Walk up and the hoses are limp, no action. Seen 3 or 4 of them. And then I paid for a computerized one, spent $3, and it still didn't work right. So I'm still trying to find some place to go where I can add a little bit of air. It's undercover top right there. A little bit of air to that right front tire. Rather frustrating. I was able to pick up a Friday load, which is what my biggest concern was, getting stuck. And I was making my delivery earlier today, right before noon, as hello there, I can't even pronounce that. Yeah, that name right there. Hi. I was making my delivery, and as I pulled into the parking lot, it was perfect. They said, "Hey, I got you one going to Pennsylvania." And I said, "Dude, right on." I said, "I'm actually pulling in drop." And he said, "Call me back." And I said, "I will." So I was able to unload that box of machine parts, and then there was some fumbling around, and I got this load going to Lake Lynn, 2 words, Lake, and then Lynn, Pennsylvania for tomorrow morning. So it's not technically a weekend run, but it is keep me moving over the weekend run, which I'll take it. But it's paying really good, so I have absolutely no complaints. The title on this stream is called Gate Guards, and like I was saying a couple other times, the people you bump into out here doing this job are usually really good people, but every once in a while, you run into somebody, "Hey, Universal, you're back." You run into somebody who's just a pain in the ass. So I pull into this big lot back here. It's a big warehouse full of engine parts, car parts, forklift parts. It goes on forever. There's forklifts racing around. It's a busy place. But I pull up to the front gate. There's this little tiny guard shack, and there's 2 guys in there dressed in like military apparel, and it's like, oh, here we go. And these guys take their jobs seriously. I mean, they think they're CIA operatives, and you bump into those guys occasionally, and they're dead serious, and this is a secure Homeland Security office. Dude, it's a parts warehouse. Knock it off. And they need all this paperwork and all these contact information, and they need my van number and my driver's license and contact and da. Alaska is in news so much. Yeah, what's going on up there real quick in Alaska? I know there was a big hoopla between Trump and Putin. Is there anything coming out of that? I'm kind of curious. I don't get the opportunity to watch the news. I mean, I hear people complaining about it, but as far as what's actually happening, I don't hear anything. So I bump into the gate guards, and these guys, I mean, this is serious business. So then I pull in, and he says, go to door. I think he said 19. So I had to drive. And in between all the docks, there'll be a little skinny opening with a door, and it'll say driver's report here. And usually what you do is you run in, and they say, yeah, go down here, go over there, right? So I pull in front, I jump out of the van, and one of the yard monkeys comes over with a little truck that tows trailers, and he goes, oh, no, you can't stop there. You have to park there. And he points to a sign that says, no parking. He goes, park right there. And I went, okay. And I got back in the van, and I parked right there, and I jumped out, shut the van off, and the guy pulls up, and he goes, no, park this way. And he wants me to turn 90 degrees, and I started laughing. And he got kind of pissy with me, and I went, dude, what? You're taking this way too seriously. He was getting pissy. I said, I was going to run in and find out where I'm going, and you're telling me to park where it says no parking, and then you tell me I'm parking wrong at the no parking zone. You know, it's just ridiculous. What's this? And he's ESE 4K full HD. This is just my phone. That's all that's running. Well, I missed that call, whatever the heck that was. I didn't like the return number. So I went in, and they had me there for about 45 minutes. And they, of course, they say, I hold up my phone. I don't need paperwork. All I get is what's on my phone. So I held up my phone. I said, is that, this is what I got. Oh, no, you need to have numbers and start with R27-13. I go, geez. So I have to call my dispatch. And dispatch has to call the customer to get this information. And they relay it to me, and I write it down half the guy. And then they kick it around for a while, and they finally go, okay, go down to the end. And it's just one little tiny box. It's in the back. And I finally got that going. So now I'm back on the road. I've got a half a tank of fuel, and I'm heading to Park Lynn, Pennsylvania for a drop in the morning. It says I'll be there at 11:20, which means I'll be there after midnight because the clock will continue to move. I shot 2 non-streaming videos today, and one of them's called Unicorn Armor, and the other one's called Classic Car Horde. And if you're a car person and you're driving down the road, fat, dumb, and happy, and you go by a lot that has 50 or so 1950s cars just sitting there unrestored, it'll make you stop. It'll get your attention. And I was able to go back, and I tried to get permission to get inside the lot to film. It's fenced off, and I called a lady, and she said, and she said, no, I don't like people going in there. And I was like, all right, well, I said, I don't want to get anybody mad. But if you look at my playlist, it's called OMG Classic Car Horde. And also, I shot another video right after, within about 200 yards of my drop earlier today. And an armory or a National Guard base or museums or VFW hall, they call it Gate Guardian. It's an obsolete piece of military equipment out front. And I shot that one. But that video is called Unit. I explained it in the video, but a Sergeant York weapon system was designed from the late 70s up into the early 80s. They were trying to get it out there. It looks like a tank on the bottom and an anti-aircraft gun, twin 40-millimeter pom-poms on top. They never got it to work right. It was the radar. They could never get to work right. And they ended up scrapping the whole thing. And I have seen pictures of them. I have seen drawings of them, and I have never actually seen one with my own eyes. And they only made a handful of them from basically spare parts laying around. And most of them were destroyed as target practice because they weren't going to use them. And I drive around the corner, and there's 2 of them. So it's a unicorn, but there were 2 unicorns parked there. And the reason, I finally figured out why they're parked there, the armory was called the Sergeant York Tennessee Armory. So that's why they had them. It caught me off guard, and I shot a video, and I kind of explained it. If you go into my playlist, look for armored unicorns. And it blindsided me because I have in my entire life never laid eyes on one of those things. And I did a little research on them. And it said there's only like 5 of them in existence, period. The rest of them have been blown up as target practice. So it was just kind of interesting to see that. And I think the idea behind the weapon was sound. The problem is it had a sweep radar on top. And if you're in a battlefield and you're shooting off a radar, you are asking for problems. You are, hey Dustin, how you doing? Where are you from, by the way? If you're in a battlefield and you're transmitting anything, you are asking for problems. And to put it as plainly as I can, imagine if you and 100 other people were running around in the dark in the woods with guns trying to shoot each other, and one guy's got a flashlight. I mean, you're going to find him a long time before he finds you. So when you're in a battlefield and you're swinging a radar dish around, they have weapons since the 60s. Like an ARAM missile, you pull the trigger and that missile goes, oh, look, a radar source, and flies right to it. That's its guidance system. So you try that thing out in the battlefield, flip on its radar looking for a weapon, you're going to be hit with so many different munitions. It's incredible. That was the fatal flaw of the design, is you can't be out there transmitting. You can't even transmit radio frequencies. And right before I went to flight school in 1989, they put a radio in the vehicle I drove that changed frequencies and jumped. You would be talking and it would jump frequencies like every second. So nobody could lock on to where it was. You couldn't get a direction finder to find it because it would jump every second. Is bam, 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 bam. It's, because you can't transmit. So the idea of driving out on the battlefield was something with a radar dish swinging around and painting pictures and advertising to the world where you are. It's just, yeah. I mean, it looks cool, don't get me wrong, but it never got it to work right. And if you watch the video, it explains what I was able to learn and what I knew about that system. We got people hopping in here like Dustin. Where's everybody from? I'm always curious as to where people come from that are watching this, because I get people from around the world, and that fascinates me. And most of them jump on here because they want to see the terrain. They want to see the countryside. We are on Interstate 40 in Tennessee, and we're going kind of east-southeast bound right now. We'll be following this for another almost 100 miles, and then we're going to start turning north. So the sun's kind of behind us, which is nice. That's getting in the way. I'm seeing the reflection. Hold on. Nope. That's better. Ooh, I've had the engine running without moving for a while today, so my gas mileage tapered off. I'm at 21 even, and I imagine that'll build back up here as we cruise along. Ooh. Well, no one's answering. Where's everybody from? We're in Tennessee right now. I'm from Texas. There, I'll give that up. Oh, by the way, gas prices around here in this area weren't too bad. I got fuel for $2.59 here a little while ago. New York City, hoo-ha. On Friday, not today, next Friday, frequency testing developed to actress heading home. Seriously, I didn't know that. In NYC, I'm going to be in extreme Western New York. I'm like as far west as you can get. Like there's the border of Pennsylvania and there's Lake Erie right there in that little corner. Probably on Thursday. I got to pick my wife up at the airport in Pittsburgh. Yeah, this is Tennessee right here. It's beautiful. I've been through here in the fall, and these trees are like a rust color and gold and yellow, like a burnt yellow. Absolutely gorgeous. Buffalo. That's where I'm going. And, well, if you're in Buffalo, yeah, I'm going to, our family farm is in Ripley. And I was pricing out plane tickets. Blue Green Forest. Blue Green Forest. Where's that? Yeah, I was pricing tickets for Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and at that the day we're going, Pittsburgh had the best deal. I try to get my wife. I like to fly her nonstop. We did a trip about a year and a half ago. Okay, NYC, that's cool. Uh, Blue Green Forest. Oh, you talk about windows? Um, we went to Colorado and I had our seats in the back. And just for fun, I was looking at the seat assignments, and it was whoa, dude, quite a lane. It was a 777, and I've never been in a 777. And the layout of the aircraft is like a DC-10. It's got two rows, so you've got like three seats, and then a row, and then like eight seats, and then three seats again. It's got two completely different rows. And I was looking at coach and business class. Hey, Lance, what's up? Where are you from, by the way? I was looking at all the seats, and there were in the first class cabin, they had two seats available, and the seats looked like bathtubs in the picture. And I clicked on it, and they were only like a few $100s extra, which usually it's like thousands. So I went, I tell you what, click, click. I'm going to take both of those. It's like, we don't ride first class. And I went, click, click. And I surprised the wife, and I said, yeah, I've already got our tickets, and blah, blah, blah. We went to the airport, and you walk down the little concourse thing that puts you in the plane. Well, it split. It actually went to the front and then the middle of the plane, which I've never seen that before. And she said, which way do we go? And I said, well, let's just go straight. And she was like, well, that's probably first class. I said, let's go there and just walk through. Okay, we got in there and turned the corner. I said, stop, that's your seat. And she was like, what? And I took some pictures of the look on her face. It was fun. And it was a 4-hour flight, and they had a bunch of weather problems that day. So we actually sat on the runway for an hour before we took off. And the wife was like, I'm good. We got a seat that lays flat, and comfortable. That was a lot of fun. We normally don't do that. But I got her a regular ticket to fly direct Houston to Pittsburgh, and I'm picking her up around noon this coming Friday so we can go hang out on the farm. That's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think she's been there once when we were passing through, but we're going to be there for a few days, and I'm going to film that because there's a lot of neat little country things going on, including there's actually, I was talking about this earlier today. There are 3 railroad tracks right across the street from the farm, which is kind of cool. My wife loves trains, so having the trains going by is something she enjoys. Some I'm looking forward to. Ooh, Lance, where are you from, Mister? New York City. Let's see, New York. I've been in New York City a grand total of twice in my life. Once when I was a kid in the late 70s, and in 2020 when I did the Cannonball, because the starting point's at Lower Manhattan Island. Got a yeah, it was 142 East 31st Street. If you know where that is, the Red Ball Garage. That's the starting point to kick off to the Cannonball. So you basically park in the garage, go do your thing, get in, and then hit the stopwatch and pull out and go from there. Blast across the United States. I was able to get to the Lincoln Tunnel in like 7 minutes, which has got to be a world record, especially at noon on a Thursday. So we're going up a hill. If anybody's from overseas, how they do this, I'm on a hill, and they give us a third lane, and this is mainly for trucks because trucks sometimes can't maintain highway speeds. I just stay in the right lane to stay out of everybody's way because I only go 62, and the speed limit here is 70. So I try to give people their space. And then, of course, there's flags saying it's going to be 60 again, which nobody's going to pay attention to. Sorry. Oof. Anybody just jumping in? We're in Tennessee going eastbound. We're heading to Parkland, Pennsylvania for tomorrow morning for a drop off of a small crate of whatever the heck that is behind me. And based on what was floating around that warehouse, I'm going to guess it's some kind of engine part or machine part or of some sort. I usually don't ask the question of what it is. atomic weapons, dead bodies. I don't look. And this lane will go away because we're going back downhill again. Well, like I was telling people earlier, I did my drop right before noon, and then comes the panic. Okay, I'm going to do what I'm not supposed to do. I just kicked it out of gear. I'm off cruise, so I'm going to see if it'll keep rolling here. Uh, it's a Friday, and if you don't get a load on a Friday, traditionally you get stuck for the weekend, and that is a long weekend. Not making money, not doing anything. So you cross your fingers and your toes to get a weekend load. Preferably you deliver on Monday so you can do a lazy drive. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back in here to slow down a little bit. All right, back in here. And I was pulling into the driveway of my drop just before 12 o'clock, and my phone rang. It was dispatch, and I go, "Hey, I the advantages of driving somebody who's dispatching for you versus coming out here and trying to dispatch yourself. Because how do you dispatch driving down the road, competing against people who are sitting in a chair that do that professionally all day long and they don't have other responsibilities? That's who you're fighting against. So the dispatcher kept chasing the boards around and was able to find me a load, which I'm very happy for. It's only good till Saturday morning, but that's a whole lot better than not having a load at all. Back to posting. This guy's coming up on me. Hold on, got to pick up some more speed here. This is looking familiar. But there is a sign up here. I think I'm on the right road that says something about a bus crash happened, and it gives the date. It's just a big sign on the side of the road. If I see it, I'll point it out. And I looked it up online, and there was some kind of massive bus crash. I don't know the cause or what, but it killed a bunch of people. It happened back in '88. I don't know how you managed to get into an accident driving in a straight line, but somebody did. Hoorah. This is the eastbound traffic. The westbound traffic is out our left door and up the hill there quite a distance. And back to posting. Yeah, 40 here. We're here in Tennessee. You can follow 40 westbound. It'll take you all the way to California. And anyone who's not familiar with American interstate highway system, the highway routes that go east and west start down at the bottom, the southern part of the United States. That's I-10, and you come up a little further. It's for a second. I lost my feed. The north and south ones are odd numbers. So you go over on the east coast, you got I-5. You get in the middle, you got 45. You go on the east coast, you'll have 95. So that's how they work it out. And then you've got a couple of oddball ones that are like 77 to 81. They're just kind of like fill-ins. My drop off puts me on I-68, which is really, it looks like this right here, all the way across New York. It's one of my favorite roads to drive on. Like 21.4. Still need to get air in my right front tire. It's about 4 or 5 pounds off. I am struggling to find an air pump, and I have one at home. I wasn't smart enough to bring it with me, but I keep finding air pumps that don't work. Downhill. TM said hi. Okay, TM, where are you from? That's my favorite question. I had a guy on here His name was Muhammad. He was from Ethiopia yesterday. And that's a first. And I had a guy earlier today from Brazil. That's the first one from South America. And I was telling people earlier today the strangest, most obscure location somebody ever came on here from was Alert, Alert, Alert Canada, which is a military slash weather station way up in the north. I'm talking about they're looking down at Greenland from where they are. There can't be 30 people up there, and he was on watching. I guess he wanted to see, I don't know, green civilization because I don't think they have trees or anything up there. Get the car, come on. Hmm. Well, so I had the adventures with the security guard CIA guys who take their job a little bit too seriously. Yeah, that was kind of weird, but it happens. It just all you can do is just smile at them. You don't get hostile back when they're starting to puff up. And they were quick and puffy. The same with the guy in the yard that was barking orders about how I should park. And he used to get puffy. I just kind of laughed and said, "Hey, dude, it's not a problem. I'm cool. I don't know what you wanted." And he was trying to get upset, but I really didn't let him go with it. There's no point in being confrontational with people out here. I just, I laugh it off. I'll tell a joke. And if you're out here expediting, I tell you what, if you walk in there telling a joke and you can just use a couple of stock ones on everybody and you put people in a good mood, they have a tendency to become really efficient. I've noticed. And one of the things I usually do was the dude driving the forklift, I'll compliment them by saying, as they're loading it, whether they're any good at it or not, I'll say, wow, it's like you've done this before. And they kind of get this puffed up look on their face. And they're like, yeah, I've been doing this for, when I usually say, yeah, you probably watch YouTube videos like the rest of us. And it's like, well, yeah, just throw some little compliment out there kind of sideways. It just makes everything go smoother. Might be a little bit manipulative, maybe, but it works. And people like to have their jobs and their skills acknowledged. And I think the most efficient forklift driver I ever saw was down in Laredo. It was a propane forklift with those little tiny 8 or 10 inch wheels, and it was driven by a Mexican kid that looked like he was 14 years old. And that guy drove that forklift at top speed at all times. And I was sitting outside on the ground, and it was raining, and he came down the ramp wide open. WTFO, wide open. Spun around, slid in the mud, lined up, grabbed my pallet, wheeled the tires backing up, and he spun a 180. And I thought the pallet was going to come flying off the forks. I mean, he was that fast, and he stopped. And then I handed him my paperwork, and he signed it, and stomped on the throttle, and he went flying over made the 90-degree turn on the ramp at full throttle, slid a little bit on the wet concrete, went shooting up into the warehouse. And I'm like, wow, that that guy knew how to make that forklift dance. I did have one person hit my floor in the back. I could take a picture of it here in the future. You have a thin wood floor, and then you put down your E-track, and then you put another layer of wood between the E-track to keep the weight off the E-track, and that's what slides in and out of there. It's a pretty standard floor. I had one person clip it, tear off some of the wood. It sucked, but not the end of the world. Hoo-ah. 71 miles to my next turn. See those two towers on the film? That is a old school power plant right there. Old school. Yes, Mr. James, I am on I-40 in Tennessee. Watts Bar. Oh, you know the name? That's the name of it? Yeah, I'm eastbound on 40 right now, coming up on Kingston. According to the GPS, going to be on the right side. Have you ever seen, like on a sailboat, they'll have a little wind generator to charge batteries, and it's like a little fan that's got like 10 or 12 blades on it that are real thin, and then it has the motor. I live on exit 15, Fish Hatchery Road. Okay, you'll be going right by me. Wave, don't forget to wave. But on a sailboat, on the front, on the bow of the boat, they'll have this little. It's a motor the size of your fist, and then it has fan blades, and they're really long and slender, and that turns a generator. It produces power to charge their batteries along with solar, I would imagine. And I'm a little curious because if you walk up to that fan and look at it cross-eyed, it starts spinning. And it takes the slightest bit of wind to turn it. Well, look at all these vehicles going down the road. What would it take to put a series of those fans on the side of the road next to the traffic right here? And as cars go by, just the air of the car going by would spin it. Just the slightest little poof it's so well balanced. It's so high geared, or I should say it's low geared. And just have a string of them on the side of the road and let the wind keep them turning a little bit at all times. Once they get moving, before it had a chance to slow down, another car would go by and keep it turning. And have 10 of them, have 100 of them in a row. Would that work? It doesn't affect the travel of the car. Exit 15. Oh crap! Let it flash them. Here we go. I had nowhere to go. Turbo chargers engaging, and back to 62. You are going to mile marker 421, and then you'll be getting Interstate 80. Correct. How'd you know that? That's what my mother tells me. In the center of the highway, as they are rebuilt. Yeah, that makes sense. But you got to do them for both directions. And I'm sitting here driving along. Your brain wanders, right? What about making those small? And you said 71 miles from exit 350. I'm showing 68 miles to exit 421 is my next turn. And that's 81 is what it's saying here on the GPS. If you made like a tube, let's say like a tube that's, I don't know, 16 inches in diameter, like an aluminum tube, and you cut like 1/3 of the side out, and then you line it with these little generators, and you put the open end towards the road. So when cars go by, just the string of them, you're kind of channeling air. If you could shape it where the air would kind of pinch down into that area, and once you get them, they could all be on one circuit. Just hit it, blast the air through, and it would get them all going. And before they had a chance to slow down, by the time the car reached the last one in the line, there's another car going by. 15 miles up Interstate 81. What's your final destination? I'm going to some countries have. That's a good idea. My final destination is Park Lynn, 2 words, Park and Lynn, Parkland, Pennsylvania. And I vaguely know where that is, but it's way up there towards the north. Northern Park is it has to do with Highway 68, which is one of the roads I really enjoy driving on. It's 500 miles. That's chicken feed. It's not considered a long way. It was, I think, from on the computer, it was 503 miles. Which for this job, it's part of the job. Where did I start? Crossville, Tennessee, back here behind me. I'm putting about 9,000 to 10,000 miles a month on this van, and I only work for like 3 weeks. So, I mean, you wear these vehicles out. I bought this van in January. I went operational in March, and I have put 44,000 miles on it since the 1st of March. If that gives you any indication how much driving. That's just the nature of this job, but it's all highway cruising. Yeah, so the vans don't wear out. The first time I did expediting, which was during COVID, because at the time I was flying Grand Canyon tours from Grand Canyon West Airport in Las Vegas, and about 75% of our passengers were from, wait for it, mainland China, and all the air travel stopped and the whole industry just shut down. So I was basically unemployed. So I went into expediting, and I bought the big Ford Transit van, the 350, the tall long, and I ended up putting 180,000 miles on it in 15 months, just long hauling. I mean, that's the job. That's what you do out here. It's relaxing. I don't, from what I have seen, I don't think this is a job for a young man or woman to do. This is kind of a older guy thing. I think a young person would be bored with it. Because most of the people I see are like 40 plus. And I had mentioned this on an earlier video. There was about 6 months ago, playing on YouTube, I found a guy. He was in his early 20s, and he decided to come out here and enjoy the action-packed adventure of driving a van, holding a steering wheel. And he dropped God knows how much money and bought a brand new Mercedes Sprinter, the big one. Yeah, I used to drive all over the Northeast, the Southwest, yeah, in North Carolina. For an IT job. It's easier driving out west, by the way. But this guy dropped, I'm going to say nothing less than $75,000 on this van. He made a bunch of videos about it, and he drove. He put a fancy bunk. And oh, wait a minute, gotta make a call. And we got highway patrol and the media at marker 357 at the bottom of the hill. Can't tell which way he's looking. All right, had to make that call. Part of the job. And this guy dropped money on him, and then he started shooting videos, and he started talking about expediting and all the the little things you learn. Because I always say to people in this business, you don't know what you don't know until you get into it. The guy started doing it. Yes, I hear your exhaust. This guy started doing the real elementary stuff, and he was dispatching himself, which again I do not recommend. And then he did it, and after 3 weeks, he made a video on the road. I don't want to. I'm going to sell the van. You drop that kind of money on a brand new vehicle and sell it a month later. Good luck. But he didn't like it. Some people, this isn't. They don't deal well with this. Everybody's got their thing. I was a commercial pilot from '89 to 24. 35 years. A couple little breaks, but when you fly, you don't fly from your house. So being on the road isn't really a big stretch for me because I spent my whole life doing that. This is just less stressful. And I get to see a lot more. If you go into my playlist, I've got what I call the scenic route. It's a playlist, and it's museums that I get to go into and play, and I enjoy certain types of museums and displays and whatnot. James says my best friend from high school is a captain for Delta. He loves it. Yeah, my dad retired from Delta back in 2000 or 2001. Yeah, my father retired. Francisca, I can't read that. I can't translate. My grandfather was a pilot. My dad was an airline pilot, and I was a flying wing pilot. Compliments of the Army. My dad was hired in 1964 with Western Airlines, and he stayed with them until '87 when Delta bought him out. So there was this line between the Delta pilots and the Western pilots, and the Delta guys consider themselves RDs, real Delta. Says I'm not an RD. I'm still a regular pilot. Level Road exit 37. There's 360 right there. Yeah, that was it's the hazing part of it. When I got out of flight school, there's a mechanical thing in military aircraft. It's called a bus bar. It's where all the electrical connections come together. And there's two bus bars. There's what's called essential bus and the non-essential bus, like auxiliary equipment. And The Huey helicopter, which will never get retired, there were pilots that flew Hueys, and I flew Cobras, guys went to Blackhawks and stuff, and we would call the Huey pilots that they flew not a non-essential bus. That's what we called them. It's just, harassment and hazing and picking on each other is part of the game in the military. People play hard. They can the stuff gets out of control sometimes. And it's fun. If you've ever been in the military, you'll know what I'm talking about. Ooh, good old days. I used to be in Civil Air Patrol as a kid. I loved flying. Oh, you flew non-fixed wing, I wish. Yeah, I was a straight helicopter. I can actually fly an airplane because a helicopter pilot could fly an airplane. Literally, you could stick, he might not have all the little nuances, but take a helicopter pilot, stick in an airplane, as long as you can help him get it started, he can take it off and land it. You take a airplane pilot and stick him in a helicopter, you might as well have stuck my grandmother in there. And I'm not making that up. That is an absolute one-way street on training. And learning how to fly a helicopter, I can assure you, is one of the most humiliating things you'll ever do. You can kind of bake a cake and you can sort of play the guitar. You cannot sort of fly a helicopter. Either you can or you can't. And it's a process, and you got to get over that hump. And once your body figures out what it needs to do, it's easy. It happens quite suddenly because it is a massive balancing act, and it's humiliating until you get over it. Once you're over it, it's like, hey, this works, but you got to get there first. And I tell people, I try to explain about helicopter flying. Think about, think about driving a car. You're on the highway going 150 miles an hour, and you want to change lanes. How much movement do you give the steering wheel? You're basically looking at the steering wheel, and that's what it takes to change lanes. When a helicopter is hovering, it's going 150 miles an hour. It's nervous. So to try to explain this in the simplest terms, and it depends on the helicopter, jet range, American made like Bell helicopter, the blade goes, you look up, the blade goes that way. Eurocopter, Airbus and Eurocopter, the rotor blade goes the other direction. So everything's backwards. So it's like your clutch and your gas pedal and your brake moving around. I got to slow down for this guy. Can't get over it. So if you look up and your rotor blade is going to the left, the nose of the aircraft is trying to go to the right. So as you come off the ground, you push the pedal, left foot, right foot, in the direction you need the nose to go. So they say stomp on the pedal. So you're coming off the ground, the blade's going left, the nose is going right. So you start pushing on your left pedal to keep it straight. Well, while you're doing that, that left pedal is producing thrust, which is pushing the aircraft to the right. So you're coming up off the ground, pushing on the pedal and leaning into it. And it's a microscopic three-way balancing act. And as soon as you get to your hover, you ease off the power, ease off the pedal, and ease off the lead all at the same time. And it is a microscopic movement. And I tell people, it's like watching a drummer. He's sitting there playing his left hand and his right hand are doing two different beats, and both of their feet are doing different beats. All their body parts are moving in different directions. And you can't get one of them wrong because it won't work. That's just, and again, I told somebody the other day, they looked at me funny. You take the biggest helicopter in the world, biggest Soviet, whatever you want to call it, one that's monster, and you walk up to it hovering and put your hand on it and push, it'll move. There is nothing holding there. It's a balancing act. Well, that's how sensitive. If the pilot is flying along and a person in the back seat leans over to pick up something, the pilot will look over their shoulder to see if that was you moving because they'll feel it. If you lean forward to pull your wallet out, the pilot will feel it. It's a very nervous aircraft. It's a balancing act. Satisfying career, but with the technology, I don't know how it's going to be in the future. I think it's going to shrink. They use drones for a lot of the stuff they used to use helicopters for, like power line control and video photography and still photography and movie stuff. It's the world's changing. I don't know what's going to happen. My last job is medical. I flew a EMS helicopter for a year. Yeah, I tell you what, if you go back to the early stages of commercial passenger, here, let's see here. I got it for you to stay on 40 south. Excellent. Full planes. Okay. I'm reading the signs. You go back to like the 1950s and people were in a DC-6. You had a pilot, a co-pilot, a second officer, and an engineer, which is a big word for a mechanic. There were 4 people, but in some cases, 5 people in the cockpit. When I was a kid, 727 had a pilot, a co-pilot, and a first officer or a second officer. Uh, and I don't even know what he did, but he sat off to the right and played with gauges. All right, today you have a pilot and a co-pilot. In the very near future, you're going to have a pilot. And going from there, you're going to have somebody sitting up there monitoring what's happening because the aircraft is essentially flying itself. And they're just up there until something happens. And then again, past that, it may go to full automation. But it'll be down to one crew member. It's basically the backup in case something goes wrong. And that I can absolutely see that happening in the next few years. Single pilot, big ship. And do you remember that TV series? I don't know if it's around anymore, but it was called Ice Pilots. I think it was on the History Channel. There's a guy up in it was about Buffalo Airways up in Canada, and they were flying old World War II cargo planes, and it was kind of like a deadliest catch kind of genre they had going on. And these people would come up into Alaska, and they would, or Alaska, Canada, wherever they were, and they would work at the base loading aircraft, forklifts, and they were flying supplies out to these, outback places. And then eventually, because again, it's 3 and 4 cockpit crew member aircraft, C-46s and just old planes that required a bunch of crew. And then eventually one of the people loading would get put in the cockpit and they would start letting him check out as the second officer or the co-pilot, whatever, and they start doing their thing. And I knew this dude, this is many years ago, this guy we called him the Commando because he thought he was a Green Beret in the Army, and I think he was a tank mechanic, but in his mind, he had been a Green Beret. And the guy's like 40 years old, and he had the mindset of a 17-year-old. He was always trying to one-up people. So we had to talk about all these exciting things he had done, which he hadn't done. And he's watching that show. He got hooked on it. And then one day he announces, I'm moving to Alaska or Canada, wherever it was, and I'm going to become a bush pilot. Uh-huh. You don't just become a bush pilot. You have to be a regular pilot. You got to have a lot of experience. And then you become an off airport pilot. And he was basing this on that TV show. I went, what do you mean? He goes, oh yeah, you go up there and you work for this guy, and then they give you a shot in the cockpit and they train you up to fly. And I said, dude, that aircraft requires a pilot, a co-pilot, a second officer, and an engineer. Not one of those positions gets to be occupied by a dude with stars in his eyes that doesn't know how to spell the word airplane. Every single one of those people are fully qualified pilots with their commercial, multi-engine instrument tickets with experience. These aren't just schmucks they found on the street corner. I had to explain that to them. It's just, you can't just have your buddy Steve and go, yeah, we need another pilot. Just throw Steve in there to fly. That doesn't work like that. You have to be qualified to do that kind of stuff. But the TV show. So those people, bare minimum, those people going up there are probably got minimum $250,000 invested in their licenses and experience. It's an expensive endeavor. It pays off, but it's an expensive endeavor. Why is traffic slowing down? Me no want a traffic slow down. All right, moving over. This is a driving habit, a tactic I have. If you're just going through town, if traffic is slowing down, there's a 0% chance someone's going to hit me on the left side over here because I got a wall to block me. So I only have 3 sides I have to worry about. This is something I do. Look up the Knoxville. I'm not happy with this. And there's a weigh station right there. Right there. You see that? Because I'm in this van under 10,000 pounds, I don't have to mess with that. DOT doesn't even look at me. Whoa, brake, 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 brake. Brake, brake. Boo, hiss. And I live in Houston. I know about this stuff. Hi from Raleigh, North Kakalaki. Yesterday, I was in Morganton, North Carolina, dropping a load. By the way, Morganton, North Carolina, beautiful town. Anybody's bored, go hang out there. It's a really nice little town. The historic district, the houses are big and they're on like rolling hills for these neighborhoods, big trees. Real nice setup. It's not even rush hour. Wait a minute, I'm in a different time zone, I think. Crap, it's rush hour. Man. Michael Caine. Seems like a famous name. In Houston, traffic that I've been dealing with for the last 25 years, the ebb and flow of the traffic is funny. And if you are in the downtown buildings and everybody's heading north to get out of there, there's a place where a bunch of highways merge, and it's a pain in the rear end. No, Knoxville just sucks any time of day, rush hour not. It's where 175 and I-40. Can you shout out my cousin Nick? Uh-huh. Yeah, uh-huh. Your buddy Nick, yeah, okay. It's like Mike Hunt. Yeah, same thing. Your stop and see the stop I did was painless. I had the North Carolina stop. It was at a dropping off at a warehouse. It was a kind of it wasn't like stuff they were really needing. These people produced this big electrical thing that I brought back, and it was an extra. Somebody ordered too many, and I was returning it. The guy mentioned that thing cost $29,000. But jeez. And I made a video. If you dig around in there, it's called Cool Bus, because I kind of went to this isolated place and went around a corner, and there was a 1950s bus parked under this overhang, and I was like, "Ooh, look at that! It needs restored." But it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I tried to stream. Got to run. Nice chatting with you. Back before you can. Okay. Was that in Morganton? Yes. All right. I'll be on for a while. This entertains me and it keeps me awake and it helps the time go by. I enjoy streaming. I like chatting with people. Yeah, the Morganton, the drop off of that point, but that bus, it looks like something out of the early 50s. And look for the videos on my playlist. And it's called Cool Bus, I think is what I called it. And it caught me off guard. And apparently a bunch of people have offered to buy it off him. And the guy just says, no. He's a full restoration, but it would be a really cool cross-country traveling machine with sex appeal. I mean, not as sexy as my van here, but still, it could try. Yeah, ladies, you don't realize I've got to beat the ladies back with a stick when you drive a van, because, it's, cool. Anyway, I would move it again. 91 degrees outside. Ugh. I stayed in Greenville last night. I got in there as it was getting dark, and I ended up staying at the TA Greenville. You never park your van in a space that a big truck can use, because the big truck guys, it's a challenge to find somewhere to park. And they have legal limits of how much they can drive. They literally cannot move at a certain time. They literally can't move the vehicle. And they'll be parked on the shoulder, and the police will roll up and say, you have to move. And he goes, I can't. And they go, well, you're going to get arrested. Well, the feds are going to take my license. I'm not moving. So they finally figured that out, and they kind of leave them alone. So I find little oddball places to hide my van. Box Van Man is cool. That's me. I'm Box Van Man. Shockingly handsome and an incredible dancer to boot. Yeah, this is a Transit 250, the Ford, and it's the medium roof, long wheelbase. I used to have the extra tall extended, which was a little ungainly. It was nice having the room, but I never really used it. And for 25% less gas mileage and an extra 20 grand, it wasn't worth it. Literally, wasn't worth it. So that's why I like this. traffic is moving. You're talking about traffic in Knoxville sucks all the time. You should try Atlanta. Atlanta, from one end to the other in any direction, is about 100 miles, and it's always bumper to bumper traffic, 24 hours a day. Oh, thanks, Kit Kat. Uh, and I drove through there one night, and I was rolling along. There was almost no cars on the road, and I was so shocked by it. I started filming, and had the radio going, listening to some local station, had it cranked up, and music's playing, and I was commenting, going, I can't believe this. Look at this. I'm just driving through Atlanta at 65 miles an hour. And I went around a corner. I spoke too soon. I went about 20 minutes. I'm around a corner. Bam, wall of cars, red lights. Oh, okay, never mind. Back to the usual. But it was shocking. And this morning, when I left Greenville, I had to drive to a word I cannot pronounce, a town, Surgoinsville, Tennessee. I don't know who thought that one up. But I went to Surgoinsville, and I started streaming, and almost immediately it dropped offline. I couldn't do it. It wouldn't just out of service. And I found out why. There's a video. I posted it. I just filmed, just regular filmed. And I went 25 miles down a goat trail. It was, and the GPS said, go this way. And I am driving along at 20-ish miles an hour with bushes rubbing both sides of the van and my antenna slapping the trees that are overhead for 25 miles. And had I met a vehicle going the other way, I have absolutely no idea what the plan was going to be going forward, because you couldn't physically get out in certain places and walk past the van, let alone drive. And I was going, whoa, when I filmed it, it was foggy, which made it extra, extra creepy. And I know for a fact there was a serial killer out there with a knife waiting to just tap on my window because he could get right there. But I think he was sleeping. And Bigfoot was busy because, you could have walked right up on me and I wouldn't have seen him, because it was dark, it was foggy, and the bushes were rubbing. It was creepy. And I posted a video. It's on my playlist. It's called something about a goat trail or a goat track. And it's 20 minutes of mind-boggling to get up from a pickup. Oh, and I saw a deer up there. I got there before they opened, and I was waiting outside, and a deer was walking by, and I filmed him. He was just kind of creeping by in the grass. That was kind of fun. It's been a busy day. Whew. Things I've learned while doing this job. The company I work for, they are heavily invested in the automotive parts industry. That's their main bread and butter. And we deliver shortages. I've delivered a pallet load of dipsticks. I've delivered gaskets, the door, one big long black gasket that's your door seal. I've delivered boxes of those. Just oddball little things they have shortages on. Something got damaged. And cargo is running hard nationwide, not just vans. I'm talking real trucks. Cargo runs hard right up to New Year's, and then it tapers off. January, February, nobody's buying anything. So it gets soft at that time frame. And then I found out the hard way. The first half of July, cargo gets soft because all the car factories are retooling their production lines for next year's model. So nobody's ordering anything. They've already got all the stuff. So they kind of shut it down, because right now, if you watch on TV, they are discounting the 2025s, because in September, they're going to start selling the 26s. And for all you people that are out there, hey, whoa. Hey, Liz, I can't read that. Leah Liz, I'll go with that. For people who are buying cars, if you're buying something new, just remember, and you can research this, the body style of the car you're looking at. Traditionally, every 5 to 7 years they change the body style. So if you're looking to buy a new car, and this is the 7th year it's had that body style, there is almost a 100% chance that it's going to be different next year, and maybe you would like that one better. I'm just letting you know, 5 to 7 years is the average. We have a Kia Soul. My wife and I, we bought it new in 14. They came out in 09, and in 2014 was the new year model, a different body style. And then that went until, when was it? 21, I want to say. Then they changed it again. So just keep in mind, 5 to 7 years for body style. You can't see this on the film, but above us ahead is a helicopter. It's a R-44 flying away from us. It's microscopically small. By the way, a Robinson R-44 is a death trap, just let you know. You have a 15 Kia Soul. We have a 14, bought it new, and the only non-routine maintenance we've ever done to it was the gas gauge started freaking out one day, and they said the electrical needed to be replaced, and the electrical is wrapped around the fuel pump, and you can't isolate the fuel pump from the electrical, so we had to replace the fuel pump, which was the easiest maintenance I think I've ever done in my life. You remove the back seat, and there's a plate on the floor with 3 screws. You pull that plate off, and there's the top of the fuel tank. And you unscrew the pump, which is a plastic lever. You pull 2 wires. You put the new pump in, drop it in the tank, put the cover on, put the seat back on. It's like ridiculous. Can't stay just giving you a drive-by and letting you know that you're getting a little reach, saying hi. You're getting a little reach? Oh, California. Oh, right on. If you have nothing wrong, I have had nothing wrong. Good car for me. Oh, I agree. I mean, they've got a bad rap, but I think that's the older super duper base models. They say, oh, people can break in your car in hot wire. Good luck. We don't have an ignition in our car. Let me know how that works out for you. You know, yeah, you keep up on your maintenance on that car, and I'm telling you, ours is now 11 years old, and it looks and drives like a new car. Keep your oil changed. Use synthetic. Don't cut corners. Make sure you do a transmission. They call it a drain and fill, not a flush. They just drain the fluid and replace the fluid. If you flush, you're going to cause problems. Get your transmission done every 35, 40,000 miles, and don't forget to get the radiator fluid swapped. The radiator fluid goes hot, cold, hot, cold. Eventually, the chemicals, it says 100,000 miles. Don't let it go that far. It gets acidic, and it will start to eat the inside of the radiator and the pump, and it'll corrode. I've seen water pumps, which is like a propeller or an impeller, where the corrosion, because they never changed the fluid, and it's got like 8 blades on it. It had half of one blade left because the corrosion ate it. Yeah, the radiator, oil change places could do it, and some of them don't even drain it. They drop a hose in it and suck it out and then replace it. It's not that complicated. Do one every 5 years or so, but don't forget the transmission. A drain and fill on the tranny will keep that car running. There's a woman I met that's doing the same job I'm doing, and she has the identical van, except hers is gray, which must be miserable in the summer. And she was talking about fluids. She had 665,000 miles on her van, and the only mechanical thing she had replaced was a timing chain from keeping your fluids. So oil changes, numero uno, don't cut corners on the oil change, and to make sure they're doing, if you take an oil change place, to make sure they're doing it right, and you don't even have to know what you're looking at. When the vehicle is out there in the shop, walk out there and stand there and watch them. If you're just standing there watching them, they won't try to put cheap oil in or cut corners. Psychologically they'll go, okay, we'll just go ahead. Oh, and free horsepower, get a K&N air filter, the letter K and something like K&N. They cost about $40. They're reusable, they're cleanable, and there's an oil. You clean it, you dry it, and then you spray an oil on it and put it in the car. I put one in our car. It takes the computer a little while to figure out what happened, and you will get like a little horsepower kick out of it. A teeny bit of gas mileage and a little bit of horsepower. My wife, I did it, put the K&N filter in her car, and I didn't say anything, and she ran down in towards Houston, came back, and she goes, my car's faster. Well, what do you mean? I said, it's faster. It just drives faster. So I don't know, what are you talking about? Then I told her an air filter only costs like $10 or $12. A K&N is probably 40, but it's reusable. You wash it, clean it, oil it, put it back in. So you don't have to buy a new one. And it's free horsepower and it's free gas mileage. Just think of that. And it works wonders on that car. Uh, Absolutely don't put it on a turbocharged motor. But yeah, the Kia, no complaints against it. None. That's the one fear of buying a used car. You don't know how the last person treated it. This van, which I bought in January, had 109,000 miles. And it's straight. It's got little, little signs of life, but it's straight. Didn't have any bad habits. And, we did the functionary inspection. I took it home, changed the oil, did the transmission, which hadn't been done. Drain and fill in the transmission, did the radiator. You got to do some surgery, but I put new spark plugs in it and did the air filter, did the fuel filter. I got to do the differential still in the back, but I think this thing's only supposed to get 20 miles per gallon on the highway, and I get normally between 21 and a half to up to 24 out of it, depending on the situation. So I'm getting above rated mileage out of it. Yeah, get a K&N filter. That's a big one, and make sure you don't just throw it in the car. You have to it's an oil. It's a cleaning kit. One's for cleaning, one's for oil, but you have to oil it, and that's what catches all the dirt. And then, every once in a while you pull it out, you spray the cleaning solution on it, let it soak, and then you get a hose and you hose it off. It's kind of like a metal mesh. You're going to say two Jews fighting over a penny? Yeah, and you spray the oil. It has to have the oil on it to work properly. Put it back in your car and then go drive around it. Like I said, your computer has to go, it kind of has to think about, wait a minute, I'm getting more air. Well, so what's happening here? And there's an adjustment here, but you're computerized fuel injected, so you don't have to make an adjustment. And then one day when you stomp on the gas, you're going to notice the car goes faster. Plain and simple. And back to your Kia, you have a dynamic computer in that car. My wife was driving east of Houston, and it was absolutely monsooning, and there was some heavy standing water on the road, and she couldn't see it, and she hit it with the left side of the car, and the computer started grabbing brakes on the right side to straighten the car out. She said she could feel the car grabbing its brakes to straighten it out. So it's a really good system. Really good system. Have confidence. 11 years, we've never changed a headlight or a taillight bulb in the car, ever. Not once. Oh, I agree about the penny. But what's funny is, uh, I was talking to somebody years ago, and we were just battling. Somebody said, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic." I said, "Don't tell my wife she's Jewish. That's going to be embarrassing." I got Ben and we got Joe. What's going on? And yeah, Ben, they, hope, and Dave, oh, that's good. That's that same truck with all the tires sticking out of it. I saw that guy like 45 minutes ago. Italy, right on. You're the first person ever from Italy on here. I had a guy from Ethiopia yesterday. That was kind of cool. In case you're wondering, we are on I-40 trying to claw our way into Knoxville on a trip up into Pennsylvania, making a delivery. I'm driving an Expedite van, which is more or less truck driving in a box van. It's like the four-man's trucker. It's also a lot easier and a lot of less paperwork. So we're running through some somewhat heavy traffic. I'm hoping to get out of this in a while so we can start just going and looking at the scenery. Now you can put a dump truck load of miles on a van doing this job, but it's highway miles. It doesn't really wear stuff out. And my last van when we got done with it, because of gas prices, it had 180,000 miles on it. And you pull the brake pads off and hold it up to a brand new set, you couldn't tell them apart. because we never used the brakes. I am now, but generally speaking, you don't use brakes. Oh, from Italy. A guy from Brazil this morning, and he likes the highways. And the other morning, I was in Missouri, and it was like just getting light, and there was low-lying fog, and there was nobody around. And a guy from India popped in, and he went, "That is not what highways in our country look like, not even close." And he just liked the scenery. This is not fun scenery. Imola City ish circuit from Imola City. I'm not familiar with that. Not familiar. And like I said, when I'm going in heavy traffic like this, if I'm not getting anywhere, I always like to get in the. If I'm not getting off anytime soon, I get in the far left lane because, like I said, no one's going to crash into you from the left side. So you just eliminated 25% of the problem. This is what I use in Houston. Well, earlier I was talking about Houston traffic, and there's this weird dynamic where, like I said, a bunch of highways kind of crush together right in the downtown area where the high-rise buildings are, and you're trying to get north. And if you can hit that intersection at 340, you can stay ahead of rush hour. If you hit it at 341, you're toast, and you're going to get stuck. So I was coming up north one time, and I was molding into that area, and it was like 338, and I hit the interchange, and I started going up the highway, and I was in my bug, my twin turbo bug, and my brain was, get out of Houston. So I was laying on this car pretty hard, and I'm trying to get away from everybody, but I'm not getting away from any of this traffic. And I look down, I'm doing 100 miles an hour, and everybody around me was doing 100 miles an hour with me because everybody was saying, "Oh, alrighty, if I'm not speaking English, I can understand you." And everybody, was like 30 cars, and all of us were doing triple digits, trying to get as far away from that area as we can. And I kind of like, okay, we're all on the same frequency, so we're just going for it, and we kicking it. Chow, I like that word. And we were getting out of there, and it was like, all right, we're cool. And I've lived in that area now. I can't believe I'm saying 25 years, and I have never seen them pull somebody over for speeding on I-45 in Houston in 25 years. They just don't bother people when they're trying to get through traffic like that. They leave people alone, and I think that's kind of nice. So if you're ever in the Houston area and going north-south on 45, just understand you're going to be racing with some people. I don't even like that phone number. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I've been on the trash network where everybody and their brother's calling me, spam calls. So if I don't know the number, I just kick it off. And I didn't recognize that area code. I'll look it up later. It's moving a little bit. Oh, man, I still got to go 38 more miles before I make my turn. Say you're doing 98, don't admit to a misdemeanor. Yeah. Oh, there you go. You're right. I was talking to someone here. You're familiar with the Cannonball run? Well, I'm a cannonballer. And back in 2020, I made a solo run across the United States. And I had a GoPro, which almost every file in it was corrupted, and only one survived. And it's on my playlist. If you go into my channel, my YouTube channel, it's called Cannonball. And there's a 1-minute video that survived. And I'm talking to the camera, and I was in Ohio, and I had a car. I was doing 115 miles an hour. And as I'm talking, it dawned on me, if I say, "Oh, I'm doing 115 miles an hour," and if I get pulled over and they get that, that's admitting. So I said, "Oh, I'm going 85, 90," because maybe it's like I can't say that. But if you watch the video, When it starts, watch the overpass go by over my head. Watch it go whoosh. That kind of gives you an indicator how fast we were going. What was your time? It was in March of 2020, and my solo time was 34 hours and 4 minutes. And the world record prior to me pulling into the Portofino was 34 hours and 33 minutes. So I actually broke the world record by 29 minutes, which included a snowstorm in Utah and a bunch of people going 45 miles an hour in Utah where the speed limit is 80. I stopped in, I had a 32-gallon gas tank in the trunk of the car. It was a rental car, and I am a Volkswagen Bug fan. I've owned 5 of them over the years. And 2019 was the last year they made the Bugs, and in 2000, a long story behind it, but in March of 2020, I went to the local rental car shop, and they had a 2019 black Volkswagen Bug, and I went, "Oh, you don't say." And I rented it, and I took the car home with my other Bug, and I said, "Wife, check this out." And she goes, "That's a sign." So I rented from Avis a 2019 Volkswagen Bug, my favorite. Had the car for 10 days, and I put 7,000 miles on it. Houston, New York, California, back to Houston. Neglected to mention that I drilled holes in the trunk to run the gas, my 32-gallon gas tank, and blew through the oil change. And a Volkswagen Bug, most people don't realize this, will do 130 miles an hour. And I found out the hard way that this car had a governor on it. It wouldn't go over 115. So I had my wings clipped. But I only stopped the car twice. Somewhere in Iowa, I blew that stop, but I got the fuel for it. And then I did another one in Grand Junction, Colorado, which is on the western slope. I went up over 70 over the mountains. So I drove from Lower Manhattan Island to Grand Junction, which is on my GPS was exactly 2,012 miles, and I got there in 24 hours and 5 minutes. So I know for a fact you can drive 2,000 miles in 24 hours. So my time for the entire run was 34 hours and 4 minutes, and my average speed from start to finish was 83. Are you talking solo record or team record? Because that's 2 different categories. I held the record for about 3 years, and then some guy. The thing about cannonballing is there is things that can go wrong. So many little things that you never thought of, up to and including somebody standing in Los Angeles, standing in the middle of the highway, holding a knife to his wife's neck and having the interstate shut down. So the goal of every cannonballer is to have a perfect run, and very, 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 very few people get it. And those are the ones that come back with the phenomenal times. Like I said, the current time is 25:39. That's Doug Tabbitt. On my playlist, again, I did a podcast in 22 about it on a podcast. It's on here. It's on YouTube. It's called Switchcast or Switch Cars. And the guy that runs it, his name is Doug Tabbitt, and he owns the record. Yeah, the 25:39. Yeah, the 27, is that COVID or non-COVID? Because there's a huge difference between COVID runs are kind of their own thing because there were no cars on the road and there were no cops on the road. And the biggest problem with cannonballing is look at the camera right now. This is the biggest problem with cannonballing is traffic. And I got murdered since the traffic, but my biggest hang-up was the snowstorm, which wasn't sticking to the road, but everybody slowed down for 300 miles and went 45 miles an hour. Absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, there's a guy that did a 27 in a BMW here. I think he did it 24. He got it down to that. It's going to get to a point where there's no room, there's no meat left on the bone to break a record anymore. You can go faster than me, but it won't be a record. So I held it for about 3 years. I don't know who this is. I don't like it when people call me and I don't know the number. 254. Yeah, I'm not even gonna answer that. Leave a voicemail. All right, I'm gonna swipe my phone down for a second. I'm gonna see if there's a voicemail. So this may pop out. Hold on a second. Spam. You're right. There it is. Okay. My phone even acknowledges those are spam calls. But yeah, the COVID runs, and if I had COVID solo with diesel too, the diesel record is I think Sean Peter has that one. Yeah, he did a COVID run. I was one of the people that watched him on Glimpse. He had a I actually talked to him on the phone yesterday. Sean Peter, he did he had a Passat, and he took off. There's two starting points for the Cannonball. One is they did them in down. The original Cannonball was in downtown New York, and they had in 1979 was the last race. And there was like 40 teams. Where are you going to find parking for 40 cars in downtown New York? I mean, come on. They went straight north to Darien, Connecticut. So some people start their runs from up there, and that's where he started his. And I watched him on Glimpse, and he rolled out on the highway and wound up to 130 miles an hour and stayed there. I mean, like an hour later, he's still going 130 miles an hour. I'm going, how did he get a why? This was COVID stuff. Mr. Meaner. Hi, how you doing? Uh, that's what it was. The COVID runs. There were no cars on the road. My first 100 miles of my Cannonball, my average speed was 67. And I'm sitting here leaning on my armrest in a wall of traffic going, wow, this is magical. Wow. It's a wall of cars for the first 120 miles. It was mind-boggling. In the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, wall of traffic. Frustrating. But that was a fun drive. I got away with it. I didn't get a ticket. I've never actually had a speeding ticket in my life. I did get pulled over. I have a playlist on my phone, on my page called Cannonball, and there's little bits and pieces of stuff on there of the Cannonball. Some shot in the car. I think it may reference the podcast. And the one where I'm talking to the camera, and the camera's like over on the passenger side. If you watch that video, watch the overpass over my head go by. Holy crap, we're almost on highway speeds. Well, yeah, I understand starting at night. I get that, but you got to look at the map. When are you going to hit these major cities? You got to factor that into what you're doing. You know, what time, if you leave at this time over here, what's going to happen over there? I tried something different. Everybody takes off Friday night. They run Friday night, Saturday night, and they get there on Sunday. Well, I decided to try something different. I left on a Thursday, and I was going to leave at 2 o'clock, and I ended up leaving at noon because I was awake and I was ready to go, and I was like, I'm going to be awake for a long time. I better, might as well go. So I had my spotter. My one guy was helping me. Was my spotter. He was there. I said, let's just go. So I got in the car and took off, and I got into Denver just as the sun was coming up, and rush hour was starting to heat up a little bit, and I got through Denver, and I got into Los Angeles just as rush hour had ended, and I was able to maintain an 80-plus mile an hour drive in Los Angeles. And what is maddening about Los Angeles is you're coming down 15 out of the mountains, and I had a wall of cars in front of me because everybody uses all the lanes. And there's a 410 loop around LA, and I hit the 410 loop, and I look at my GPS, and I'm 90 miles from my destination. How can you be in Los Angeles and still be 90 miles from your destination in Los Angeles? And the traffic was heavy, but it was hauling ass. And I was like, man, if at any point this traffic starts seesawing, I'm dead. I'm absolutely toast. And I kept 80 plus miles an hour all the way to the finish line. And I wasn't watching my time. I was watching my average speed because I was paranoid about it. But I made it in there in one piece. But I was losing my mind there at the end. Hi from Tennessee, originally Southern Cal, Seattle. Wow. Going from the West Coast to Tennessee, that's got to be a transition. You're getting some traffic at some point now, no matter what, I think. Yeah, there cannonballing. If anybody's interested in doing that, I'll give you a little secret. There is no training manual. I kind of wrote one. There is no single source of information. But get out your pen. Everybody talks positively of Tennessee. You stay out of the big cities, but people say a lot of positive things about Tennessee. You better get everybody get out your pen. Write this down. The letter C, the number 2, the letter C, Express. That's the Facebook group of the Cannonballers. If you want to poke around in there and join in or ask questions. I can't tell you about, is this guy out of gas? I would stop and help and give that guy fuel, but there's nowhere to pull over. I'm assuming he ran out of gas, but I don't have the ability to pull over here. Express. EXPRESS. That was I'm not on Facebook at all. But C2C Express was the page where the Cannonball people kind of hung out together. And cannonballing is not something you do on a whim. You don't roll out of bed on a Tuesday and go, I think I'll go cannonballing today. You have to plan what you're going to do. And I literally spent 3 years researching, watching like this right here. People film dash cam driving cross country, and I would sit at my computer and watch dash cam videos. C2C, as in ocean, C, number 2, C, Express. And I would watch dash cam videos to understand in each state that I was going through, where do the police sit? Do they sit in the middle? Do they sit on the shoulder? Do they patrol? Where's their turnarounds? And in Ohio, which is one of the more dangerous states to speed through, the police sit in the center divider in a silver car with the crossovers and watch people. And you know you're coming on a crossover because there's a giant red reflector. Out of text? All right. There's a giant red reflector about 100 yards in front of it. So at night, if your headlights hit a red reflector, you're coming on a crossover, and you basically missile lock on the center divider. And if there's nobody there, it's hammered down. And in my one video that's posted under my Cannonball thing, my Cannonball playlist, I was in the lane and there was just a smattering of cars, and I was getting it, absolutely getting after it. And it was like the perfect setup. And I went shoot through Ohio. I got made phenomenal time going through Ohio. Got the crap scared out of me in Iowa. If you're running high-end radar in a car and you have some traffic around you, you're kind of protected. If you are the only car on the road and you're hauling ass in the dark, it is extremely dangerous because the police will sit there in the dark with their radar gun turned off, and you get up in their face and they'll pull the trigger and blast you and you're toast. Well, I was going through Ohio with triple digits, and my radar went from quiet to screaming bloody murder. And I was extremely fortunate because of a couple things that happened all at once, which was I was running my high beams, and if a police car blasts you with the radar and suddenly you go to low beam, you're telling him, oh, by the way, I have a radar detector on board. If you slam on the brakes, the car will nosedive and the headlights will bobble and the taillights will come on. So it tells you you're slamming on the brakes. And the reflection of your car is based on the range, the size, the color, darker is better, and the flash comes from the headlight buckets, and most importantly, the front license plate. Well, by mere happenstance, before I left the Red Ball garage, my license plate fell off. I found it in the trunk when I got to California. So when he shot me, he hit a black car, small, way out of range, with no license plate. And it's plastic in the front, plastic wraparound. and he didn't get a good flash off of me. And when he hit me, I grabbed the parking brake and ripped it up under my arm and held the button down. He waited about 3 seconds and he hit me with the instant on again. And by then, I had dropped down to speed. Yeah, you can look around. I'm in the book. I'm around in the system. They call me I'm the bug guy. Is what I'm referred to as. When when I announced it on the page, people went like, seriously? You, what? And said, yeah. They caught him off guard. Well, these Mercedes and BMWs are more commonly used. It says 3 a.m. here and I can't sleep. Yeah, last night I couldn't sleep. These guys use supercars. Well, the supercars going those outrageous speeds are getting like 8 miles per gallon. I got 26.9 miles per gallon overall on my run. And when I went to the podcast, they looked at me like, what? I said, yeah, I get 26.9 miles per gallon out of that car. Now, the car only would go 115. Now, had it gone 120, it may have dropped down into the teens. I don't know. There's a point. Ever slam brakes from 30 years. Oh, no, you don't want to. You're advertising you're speeding. Well, the guy hit me the second time, and then I went past him, and he didn't pull out. And I just went over the roll of the hill, and I knew that is the only patrol car out here tonight because there's nobody on the road. And I was still a good distance from the border, and I knew it was wide open. So when I went over the roll of the hill, hammered down, hit the limiter, and just went for it. Absolutely went for it. I had it pinned to a stop at 115 and got out of the state. And I went through Nebraska. It was still dark out. And for some reason, I had a calmness go over me that said, there's nobody out here. So I got aggressive in Nebraska. I was taking a risk because I'm the only car out there. Like I said, any cop wants to hit me, boom, you're toast. But it never hit me. So I was like, this is awesome. That was a fun experience. I'm glad I got to do it. I'm not going to do it again. I have considered doing a cannonball on a scooter, just because nobody's stupid enough to try it, and it doesn't really matter what the time is. You just do it. My wife's not very supportive, but right now I'm just worried about saving up more and doing the retirement thing. When I did the run, I was 50 years old. I think I'm one of the oldest guys who's ever done that. Because there's a point when your body doesn't respond the way you want it to. You can't stay awake and white like you used to. Before my run, I purged myself of caffeine products. Completely 100% purged myself for 2 weeks. And I had one of those giant monsters, that comes in a plastic bottle. It looks like holds tennis balls, those really big, tall plastic bottles. At what point in the video going to be called driving across USA on a scooter? I don't know, but I thought about it. But you got to categorize scooters because there's some out there that are pretty serious. I have a Bergman 200. I don't think they make them anymore, but there's a Bergman 650. It's a 2-cylinder. It'll do 120 miles an hour. There's some serious scooters, so I got to find, if I'm going to do it, I got to categorize it as in single cylinder, certain size wheels, in big enough to be legal, like 200, 250 cc's and nothing more. You got to have a category, because if you're out here on a little 250 single cylinder and some guy gets on that 650, he's going to blow your doors off no matter what. So it's just, you got to kind of weigh it like that. But I'm just, it's just an idea. There's also another cross-country run. They call it the Southern Cross, or the Jackson Dog. Jacksonville Beach, Florida, I-10 to Dog Beach by San Diego. It's the shortest distance across the United States. It's 2,360 miles, I think, coast to coast. And you stick your finger in the Atlantic Ocean, run off the beach, get in your vehicle, race to California to Dog Beach, San Diego, and run out, stick your finger in the ocean. You stop the clock. And a 3-man crew did it in a Mercedes. in 24 hours and no seconds. Dip your finger, dip your finger. And that's the record there. But I haven't, the last few years, I haven't really been paying attention to it. So I don't know the numbers anymore. It's like you kind of do it. It's like a phase. You get that phase and you move on. Let's see. There you go, dude. I'll ask. There you go. I know you're in a hurry. Eat it. Yeah, I kind of got out of my normal lane. Air surfing, gumball rally would be also fun. I don't know anything about the gumball. I've heard of it. I'm not familiar with it. They have one they do called the Bandit Run. If you remember the Smokey the Bandit movie, you take off from wherever that race course was in the movie in Atlanta. You drive to Texarkana, you buy a six pack of Coors. You try and drive back. That's the Bandit Run. It's just, there's different variations of it. But I did my one Cannonball, and I'm happy. I was happy with the outcome. I would have been happy. You got to set a goal. And watch several times memories. I set a goal, and I said, as long as I can do this in less than 40 hours, I'll be happy. My pipe fantasy was 34 hours, and with everything that went wrong, I missed my pipe fantasy by 4 minutes. And I am very happy, and I'm glad I did it. And it's like a little thing to remember. It's like a bucket list item. But I'm not going to make a habit out of it. You know, you get caught speeding, you get in trouble. You get caught driving at ludicrous speed. It's kind of a different category of trouble. But I had a really good excuse worked out, because when you get pulled over doing triple digits, you better have a good storyline. And being that I'm a helicopter guy, I was still flying at the time. I brought my flying gear with me, and in the back seat, I had my bags and all kinds of stuff. I threw my flight gear, my headset, my knee board, my GPS. I put it on top of the pile in the shape of the back window, because they're not tin, it's a rental car. If they walk up and look, they'll see the headset, they'll see the flying gear. And the storyline was, I'm going to pick up a police helicopter with a broken FLIR system and taking it to Houston. And then they would try to trip you up, and they say, well, what airport are you going to? And the answer is lakefront. Why? Because every town has a lakefront airport. I don't know why. So coming up on Chicago, I'm going to Chicago's lakefront airport to pick up a police helicopter, and they're freaking out because they need it fixed. You know, what's he going to do? You can't check that. Get past Chicago. I'm going to Omaha to pick up a police helicopter to take it to Houston. Where are you picking it up at? Lakefront Airport. Same for Denver. Same for Las Vegas. They don't know where to figure that out. And I said, they're losing their minds, and I'm getting pressured really bad. And I had my wife on speed dial, and I changed her name to Flight Ops. And I was going to call and say, hey, these guys, my wife works as a helicopter base manager. She knows the lingo. And she was going to give some big line of shit about how, and why are you stopping it? We need to get this aircraft, blah, 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 just kind of stir the pot a little bit. But that was the plan. But I didn't get pulled over. These are the kind of things you think about before you go cannonballing. You better have a good storyline. I also had a plan that if I was going to get arrested or the car broke down, I was going to have to take that fuel cell out of the back and make it disappear, because Avis got their car back with a 32-gallon gas tank strapped in the trunk. There may be some questions with holes drilled in it. What's this doing here? I don't know. It came with the car. Maybe. This was a joke about that. That's like somebody said something like, how many bodies can you bury in your basement before it starts to smell? And he goes, I don't know, but it's not 6, or something to that effect. Yeah, you have to think of all the scenarios of, if fill in the blank happens, what are you going to do? If this happens, how are you going to, how are you going to respond? And there's guys, and they didn't plan ahead. They got a flat tire. Okay, it happens. Well, the flat tire's underneath the fuel tank. So now they got to take the car apart to get to the, what's 30 gallons of gas weigh? 6 pounds per gallon. You got to unbolt, take out the fuel to get to the spare tire. You got to think about that stuff. So the spare tire in this car was in the back seat. I took it out, covered it in a towel, put it in the back seat. Just little things like that. I had unit and R1 radar detector programmed. Wonderful system. I had 2 GPSs running my stopwatch. Uh, I was on a budget, so there's some other things I didn't have. I didn't have a scanner because I don't really understand them anymore because everything's all digital and scrambled. But the, my personal Cannonball experience, the rental car, gas, food, a hotel on both ends, and my wife's plane ticket to meet me in California, I spent something around $1,400 versus the guys that spend $100,000. So they were a little taken aback. I told them that during my podcast I did on switch cars. They were looking at me like I had 2 heads. You did a Cannonball, broke a record, spent $1,400. Yep. Kind of got a kick out of that. I think I recognize this. There's a motorcycle dealer coming up on the right. He sells slingshots. Take a look here. Now, that was the good old days. There's a Buc-ee's. Yeah, slingshots right there. Take a look. See, my cousin has one of those right there. One of those little funny looking, right there, funny looking vehicles. Here, this next week when I'm at the farm, I'll show you some pictures of them, some video of them. It's a 3-wheeled street legal weirdo thing called a slingshot. Yeah, you gotta be like I said. One of the things I planned ahead is I took the license plate off the front of the car, and if they said, "Where's the front license plate?" I don't know. It's a rental car. I don't know. And I came up with the rental car idea because somebody else did it, and they called themselves. They used a rental car, and they called themselves Team Loss Damage Waiver. And I was like, "Ooh," because if you're going to go buy a specialty car to make a run, that's great. But when you're done, now what? You don't necessarily want the car anymore. So I said, "Well, pick a rental car," and everybody knows the rules of a rental car are no curb too high, no ditch too deep. Then you go out and beat the crap out of it, turn it back in, and get another one. So I hammered that car pretty hard. And it performed. I was real happy with it. And my wife said, be that's a record holder, why don't you buy the car? Well, I already had a Bug, but I said, I have a car. I don't like black cars because they look great, clean, and they look like Shaza when they're dirty. And I said, besides, I know how this car's been treated by me. And I don't know if I want to have that as my long-term car. But it did appear on a car lot a few weeks later because I picked it up with 25,000 miles and turned it in with almost 33,000 miles on it, which is way past the time they had rental car. So they sold it off. They shouldn't even have had that car. They should have been gone the year before. Over again. Ooh, thinking outside the box. It's my gas situation. I'm good on fuel. It's mileage. 21.6. Oh, that's all right. Rolling deals. Drop the beat. Hey, have you ever seen the guy, that beatbox guy, the Russian guy with the beard? His beatbox videos floating around out there pretty hard. I don't know his name. He's a Russian. He can do some sounds that kind of defy reality. Yeah, I'm excited. I've been out here a couple of weeks. I'm excited to see the wife. I'll pick her up on Friday at the airport. We're Yes, different ones. True. Love it. Yeah, I've been married to my wife since rocks were soft, as she likes to say. And, we're one of those weird married couples that actually like each other. They actually get along. They like to hang out together. And I've always told people she's the perfect wife. I come up with a really, really, really bad idea, and she backs my play 100%. How can you go wrong with a wife like that? Cannonball. You suggest that to a normal wife, and she'll be like, "Oh hell no." She was like, "All right, go for it, plan it out." I said, "Okay, 100% support from her." Uh, it's nice having the sun behind me. The last couple of weeks, it seems like I was always driving in the sun. Like turns coming up in 10 miles. Whoa. Yeah, that guy that just pulled in front of us, that's a hot shot driver. He's got a fifth wheel on a 1 ton truck, and they do semi-local deliveries of heavy stuff. A guy with a pickup truck or a little tiny van or just a car running around town, they're called couriers, and just about anybody and their brother can get into it. You know, you have, I don't know how their insurance works, but some people sign on to be couriers to run little missions. You can do that. And then you have the real trucks, the real truck drivers, and that's my serious business. It's what I'm doing, which is expediting and how normal trucking works. If you need some product, you order it. It used to be in the old days, you had an inventory of whatever product you need on the shelf. Now they don't do that. It's called JIT, just in time. Just you have the inventory show up just as you're running out. You have very little. It's a weird mindset for business, but that's what they do. And if something happens, you need a product, you order it. The product's going to be picked up by a hot shot or a courier or whatever, and it gets delivered to the shipper, and it goes into a warehouse, and it sits in a pile for a day or 2 days or 3 days, whatever, until there's enough of it to put on one of those big trucks, and then it goes zipping across the United States or wherever it's going, and it goes to a warehouse, and it gets sorted and shifted through, and then they give it to a hot shot or a courier, and it gets delivered to you. So there's some time involved. If there's something that you need now, you're broke down. Your factory's out of commission. Your equipment can't be completed. You need it now. You call what I do an expediter, where I go to the producer of the product or the warehouse where they hold it. It gets loaded in my van, and I drive it directly to you and hand it to you. Here, direct. She loved it that she joined. Yeah, it's more relaxing driving your own. This is my van. I own this van, but it's direct. And the story I told the story, I think yesterday. I picked up an electric motor, really big electric motor, weighed 2,300 pounds, and it was on a specialty skid. And they put it in the back of the van. I strapped it down, and as I was driving, I heard the skid breaking under the weight. Uh, I started motoring, and I took it to Kansas and direct. It was like 1,100 miles. They said, would they need this now? And they want direct. They pay extra for that if it's a long distance. And they do the math, and they average you out at 50 miles an hour, which includes stops. Hey, hi again. Includes the stops for fuel, whatever. And then they say, here's the latest you can get it there. So it's my last. I got in, set the cruise, took off driving, and it was needed to be there by like 10 o'clock in the morning. I rolled in there at like 6:15 in the morning, drove all through the night, and I drove around back to where shipping and receiving is always kind of in the same place. And I drove around back, and there were like people everywhere. There were bodies running around. There was trucks, cars, and I'm looking around going, this is the busiest shipping and receiving I've ever seen in my life. You know, and I walked in the room, and I'm wearing shorts. Unless it's a place you need to wear PPE, I always wear shorts. And I walk in with my clipboard, and there were like 25 people in this room, and it looked like NASA during the movie Apollo 11. They were like in full blown panic mode. And I opened the door, and it closed. And every head turned and stared at me. And I went, I got a motor. And it was like you pulled the fire alarm, and everybody came running out. It was just everybody scattered. And the forklift came out and they picked up the motor and they took off and they signed the paperwork. And some honcho guy pulled me aside and he said, "Thank you for getting this here and thank you for getting here early." And I go, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "This factory has 4 motors like this. They've been here for decades. They've never given us trouble, and that one of them blew up." And he goes, "We're losing." And I think I'm remembering the right number. He said, "We are losing $30,000 an hour in production waiting on this motor." So me getting there 4.5 hours early saved them a dump truck load of money. They needed to get that motor back on the line doing whatever the motor did. People ask how to, I've had, holy crap, people, I got cars piling up. Come on, van, go. I got all kinds of cars piling up for some reason back here, and they're all swinging lanes, and I don't want to be in the middle of it. Huh, that was weird. Yeah, it was a lot of money. It was a really incredibly high number. And I think he said $30,000. I picked up a load. There was a plant in Marshall, Indiana, that made computer chips. You remember about 4 or 5 years ago, all the car manufacturers were having chip shortages because, I don't know, China or Taiwan, somebody wasn't doing it. And there was a factory in Marshall. It wasn't very big. It was real high tech looking inside. And they were running 3 shifts. They were slinging these computer chips in this really clean warehouse. I kind of got to walk around and look at it. There were 3 Sprinter vans sitting there out front, and I was walking around and watching, and the computer chips they were making looked like Jolly Rancher candies, and they were in little tiny plastic bags, and they were all attached like in a string, and they were rolled up on a spool. And if you unrolled it, it was probably 30 or 40 feet long. It was all these little chips, and they're coming out of this machine, and they were putting them in boxes and taping them as fast as they could. And they had a pallet that was up high, kind of high off the ground, and the pallet was slowly turning. And it was like they were a machine, drop and go with a Ford Transit. Oh, heck yeah. These vans will do 98 miles an hour. Don't ask me why I know that. And they were loading it on the pallet. This guy was slapping stickers on it, and then they put it in the machine that wraps it in the saran wrap. And then the forklift would grab it, and they'd run out, and they'd throw it in a van and give you paperwork and say, "Go." And then they're working on the next load. It was as fast as they could make them. They were shooting them out in the vans. And I drove direct from Marshall, Indiana to the Dallas-Fort Worth area to a GM plant. They said, "Get it there." And I got there real early in the morning, and there was a line of trucks. And I don't mix with the trucks because I don't use their loading docks. I use a ramp, so I don't mix. I don't mess with them. So I kind of went around this line of trucks, and I got to the front, and a guy came out of his box and said, "You have friends in Jefferson City, Texas. Let's go horseback riding in Tennessee, Jefferson City, Jefferson." By the way, and hold on a second. East West 40, North Bristol 81. Okay, my turn's coming up. And the guy said, "Do you have the chips?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Dock one." So I turn over and I go to dock one. And before I can get the van turned around, here comes the forklift. I'm like, "Well, that was quick." And the guy grabbed him, and I said, "This is the fastest unload I've ever done." He said, "This factory is 40 minutes from shutting down production, waiting on these." The whole factory. It was a big factory because they were at a point where they couldn't continue to do anything. And I was like, "Holy crap!" So I mean, that's how close it was. He said, "Thank you for getting here early." So if you're ever doing this line of work and they don't have some very specific delivery time, go there as fast as you can because they want it, and then you get back on the board to get your next load. Because if you goof off for 4 hours, a really good load may have came and gone, and you weren't there to pick it up because you were still on the clock. Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia line too. Uh, the reason I'm asking about Elizabethton is I took a helicopter there years ago with the wife, delivered one. Okay, yeah, North Bristol 81. Here's my big turn. I-40, very familiar with me. Yeah, I've been on this one a handful of times. You ever seen those people who see the Google car coming down the road and they put on scuba gear and goggles and a pitchfork and maybe a barbecue pit and they run out in their driveway and strike a pose and then they go find themselves on Google Earth? I've seen guys that will lay on the ground like they're dead, like they've been shot or something, just so they could be, forever a part of that. Woohoo! Found a turn. Used to be living at Five Below, Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia. Wow. Mileage 21.6. I think it's full on to that mileage. Yeah, so if you like I said, if you go on my playlist, there's Cannonball, that's a whole category. And look for that one called something about a goat trail that I went on this morning. It was mind boggling. I might as well have been off road for 25 miles in the dark, in the fog, with Bigfoot. Kind of a creepy experience. Hi, family. Oh, hi. You have, yes, cruise control. 62 is the sweet spot. Every car has a sweet spot for gas mileage, and 62 is, if I go 63, I'll lose about 1.5 miles per gallon. If I go 65, I lose a total of 3 miles per gallon. I experimented with this, so this vehicle likes 62. My last Volkswagen Bug was a beautiful '08 model. It was bright red, had the wing tinted windows, nice interior, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful car. Had the straight 5-cylinder. On the wide open highway in the middle of nowhere, its sweet spot was 90. The car was rated at 28 miles per gallon, and it got almost 30 going 90. That for some reason, because it had a lot of torque in that 5-cylinder. Your power wasn't there, but your torque was pushing it down the road. 21. I get this varies 21 to about 24 sometimes, but I'm usually in the 22s. For whatever reason, I'm stuck at 21.6, maybe the rolling hills, but usually it's between 22 and 23. It's normal on this. Yeah, I used to drive years ago. I had a Mazda 3 with a 2.3 liter engine, and I would go out to West Texas. I was flying medical in New Mexico, Hobbs, New Mexico, native 3.7 in Hobbs, New Mexico, and the speed limits out there are 80 and 85 miles an hour, and the sweet spot in that car was 83 on the wide open spaces, and the split second you hit 84 and dropped like 5 miles per gallon. That was that with the drag, your induced drag. It wasn't parasite drag, but it was induced drag from the airfoil. But that was the spot, and I played with it, checked my mileage, played with it. 83. That's what I'm good for. Nope. Switching bottles. I have two big fancy aluminum bottles, and I whip into rest areas, and they have the fancy water bottle refilling things. And I just killed one, and I got one left here, so I need to find a rest area. Yeah, vehicles have their individual quirks. Yeah, cars have personalities. That's the absolute truth. Aircraft have personalities. Also, it's like my wife. I married her for her personality, and she's got like 8, so I got the extra 7 for free. So I tell guys, your wife just wants you to talk to her, and your wife wants you not. She doesn't want to hear the sound of your voice, and she wants you to sit and spend time with her, but she also wants you to stay away, leave her alone. So we got to kind of figure that one out. That's a urinal. Don't drink out of it. Though. I have, yeah, I have to. I have a piss jug in the back. I do have one. So it was a giant water bottle. And these are just aluminum ones I like using. If you're ever out here expediting, and I've mentioned this before, but in case someone's new on here, uh, I'm running on a gas engine, and there is an app you can put on your phone from just about every one of the truck stops. You can go TA, Roadrunner, Petro, Loves, and Pilot slash Flying J merged. Yes, happy wife, happy life. I made a video the other day about that. I said women who are slightly overweight live longer than men who mention it. Uh, I use Pilot Flying J because there's lots of them. I have the app on my phone, and I'm going to hear in a little while. You tap on the app and go for location, and it'll show you where the Pilot Flying J's are on the route you're on, and you can tap on it to see what their gas prices are and whatnot. And when you have the app, you get a 10 cent per gallon discount off your fuel. That's one way to save fuel or save money. And I'm a veteran, so I get a 10% off anything I buy in the store, which is another little benefit. And this is the only that I know of, the only truck stop establishment that gives shower credits for gasoline purchases. Everybody else, it's only diesel. So when you whip in there and you put your phone number in I don't pay for gas at the pump, I pay for it inside. And you put your phone number in for your app, and it gives you the 10 cent discount, and it also notes that you're buying fuel. As long as you buy at least 15 gallons at one time, not 10 here and 10 there, I found that out the hard way, you get a half a shower credit. And and then the next time you get another half, you get a full shower credit, and you can use their showers for free. It costs like $15 to buy a shower. They die before wives because they want to. That's true. You get a free shower, but the only way you can do it is through Pilot slash Flying J. Loves, you don't get credits for it. You have to pay for the shower, which is not interested. So I've got like 4 saved up right now. So one of these nights you whip in there and you reserve a shower, you go and do your business, clean up, and feel like $1,000,000. And you don't have to get a hotel room to do it. It's just one of the side benefits. Yeah, 10% discount. Everything in there is really expensive. But having the app every day, every 24-hour cycle, open the app and go to offers, and they will have a buy one get one free on certain products. And maybe it's something you want, something you don't. Sometimes it says, "Hey, just because you're a loyal customer, you can have a free fill in the blank." And these aluminum bottles I have, it's called Path Water. It was buy one get free, so I bought the two, and I refill them. The plastic bottles wear out, kind of disintegrate. These are a lot sturdier. And they'll have some, oh, if you buy this product, you get a free. One was buy a piece of pizza, you got a free Coke or something like that. Just stuff like that. They'll give you offers. I have a shoulder bag I carry my clothes in when I go jump in the shower, or to several gas stations and truck stops. That's cool. Meet some fun people working there. And it's like a shoulder bag, real heavy duty canvas bag, and it was 30% off with the app, and I only paid like $17 for it. I've been using it for years. I really like it. I had an incredibly fun exchange with a woman working at a Pilot years ago. Where you tap your card, which I like tap because it's a one-time thing, and then there's the slide and there's the insert card. And I'm tapping the card, and she goes, insert it. And I said, "Oh, you like that, do you? You want me to insert?" "Yeah." She goes, "That didn't work." She goes, "Okay, slide it." "Oh, you want me to slide it up and down? You like that?" She goes, "Oh, yeah." Slide it up and down again. Well, we started going back and forth. Just pervert talk, just being funny. And then both of us started laughing. Okay, shop left doors open for this. Can you drive us out there? Want to your truck cleaned up or need my table off out? Come on in and see it. It's exit 126 on the north side for the truck lot. Okay, that was advertising on Channel 19. We're going by a truck stop, and there's a truck wash for big trucks. And I don't know if you could hear what they were saying, but that was literally advertising saying, "Come on by. You don't have to wait in line. We'll wash your." There's only a couple places you hear that. The advertising. That was funny. My truck stop showers to count. I cleaned too many truck stop showers to count. They say this facility showers up. Yeah. And I tell you what, if I go in that shower in the bathroom and it's clean, I always leave $2 or $3 on the counter when I take off. I always leave a tip. Sometimes you go in and they just do a half-assed job. I don't. But if it's clean, I leave a tip. I don't say anything to anybody. I just leave $2, $3 on the counter and walk off. but put it where nobody can see it until they go in to do the work. That's something I've done since day one because people appreciate being acknowledged for their job. Wally World. Hold your speed. Go for it, dude. Yeah, I've been to a couple of truck stops that had the shower. Just it was a brand new building, a brand new disabled shower. And I swear to God, you could have had 5 people in there. I mean, the shower part of it was absolute monstrosity. And then I go to other ones where the actual shower area was tiny, teeny tiny. So what? In this USA Surfland, Selfland. I don't know what that word means. I love it. There's no towel. Oh, you got to make sure there's towels there. Tons of them. Heads of mop heads, towels, companionship. Yeah, I believe it. Good luck to USA, my country, by nothing USA. Okay. I don't know if that's a flex, but okay. I know you like the technology coming out of here. I can tell you that much. I don't see anybody slowing down buying technology. I got in an argument with a guy on a computer about 20 years ago. And, he was down in Argentina, Brazil, or something. He was getting mad about United States this, and I said, "What kind of computer are you?" Well, I'm an Apple. Oh, okay. You're on an American-made computer on the American-made internet, powered by American invented electricity. Yeah, okay. You're selling it, dude. You're selling it. We'll look to USA, my country. I don't know what country you're in. Nothing. Oh, we're keeping our zombies. Oh no, you can't have our zombies. So we make our movies. So you can't have our zombies. No, no, we like our zombies. Oh, geez, my next turnoff's 136 miles. Seriously? Ooh, that sucks. But most people are pawns in life. Do you remember Blazing Saddles? Mongo only pawn in game of life. Andy Graham for Mongo. I was in Las Vegas when I was working out there in 16 or 17. And when they cross the street over there, the crosswalk is digital and it's like 2 minutes. And there is a wall of bodies crossing the street. You're talking 150 people each way, and you're going to go through each other. And there's 3 lanes of traffic, a little center divider that you can't cross. Tigerland, India, back to India. All right, cool. Vegas, been there several times. Yeah, I used to work out there. But you have 3 lanes of traffic, that little center divider, which they put up a green fence because people were running through traffic, getting run over. So they had to put up a fence. And then 3 lanes of traffic. Okay, so there's a big gap. There's 150 people on the other side of the road, 150 people on this side of the road getting ready to cross this crosswalk. And on the other side with all this traffic, there's a guy standing there that looks like Mongo from Blazing Saddles. And he's wearing the juice squeezer flat brimmed hat. He's wearing a vest and he's like flexing a little bit. He's got no shirt on. He's wearing this sleeveless vest and he's got this big round face and the guy stands out like a sore thumb. So all through this line of bodies and all this movement, somebody behind me says, "Candy Graham for Mongo." And everybody in the crowd started laughing because every one of us were staring at that guy way over there like, what's up with that dude? Because he really stood out. But that comment, there was probably 25 or 30 of us started cracking up. I mean, it was explosive laughter because it was the perfect statement to make. Absolutely perfect. Middle Tennessee. Drop the beat. Well, there's exit 15 you were talking about. Exit 15. Passing by. That was 46. There's a lot of cars on this road. I don't even know what I'm carrying. What does this say on here? Look at my paperwork. It says shipment ID Dodge. Wait, power transmission parts. I am carrying Dodge power transmission parts. Jealous? Dodge transmission parts. If this is an Expedite, this means they have a piece of equipment that's doing a job and it fell. Right now I'm on 81. Been on 81 for about 20 minutes now. Nickel wiper. Oh, tank ditches, tank ditches. Yeah, this is 81. Mile marker 16, in case anybody's paying attention to that stuff. Thanks for everyone that's coming on here and helping me. It helps me pass the time. Old stomping grounds. It helps me because you sit here long enough, you start getting bored out of your skull. And I like interacting with people. I'm going eastbound as we speak, according to my dash here. Something as a pilot, you're taught to cross check. You're watching your instruments, you're watching your gauges, and you may not know exactly what it said, but if it was wrong, your brain will tell you something's wrong. So it's like you're always looking, your eyeballs are constantly scanning the panel, just constant. And when I'm driving my car, I go speedo, tack, oil, fuel, water. Speedo, tack, oil, fuel, water. Speedo, tack. I don't even know I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now, actually. You're constantly watching this every couple of seconds, and it's a habit I can't break. It's a little annoying when I catch myself doing it again. It's a little annoying when you catch yourself doing it, but it's just a habit you can't get rid of. Dirty hand still broke. Uh, Charles Clinton. Charles Clinton said hi. Hi back. Charles Clinton, where are you from? What part of the world are you from? I have somebody come on here from Vatican City or Liechtenstein. No, wait, North Korea. Ha ha ha. That would be fun. You'll know it your bottom first. The trailer starts to jackknife. Yeah. In a helicopter, if you're having a tail rotor issue or something, it's not helicopter problems don't sneak up on you. They give you warning when something starts to go south with rare except Toronto, right on. If you have a tail rotor issue, it's in your feet. If you have an engine issue, it's in your ass. If you have a main rotor issue, it's in your hands. It'll let you know something's going wrong. You need to start reacting to it. Clinton, related to President Clinton? I doubt it. Toronto, right on. I have been to Canada since, geez, when was the last time I was in Canada? Late 70s when I was a kid. As far as epic journeys go, one of the journeys I am kind of kicking around is to buy some type of ridiculous car, like an AMC Pacer. Ugly as the day is long, make it mechanically sound, put some zombie lights on it, get the wife on board, and drive to Anchorage, Alaska. From our house, it's like 4,000 miles. Go up the Alaskan highway and drive up to Anchorage, sell the car for whatever it'll sell for, get on a plane and fly home. Why? Just to say we did it. Gremlin, another sexy vehicle. That's what I'm talking about. Something weird. Something that's just oddball. Not like a serious car. This guy gonna come over? Yes, no, maybe. There we go. But like I said, make it mechanically sound, strap a rack on the roof, put some lights on it, make it look like, the zombie apocalypse is upon us, and just drive it up there. The Alaskan highway, a lot of it's gravel, and your headlights and your windshield are not going to survive it under normal circumstances, just because it's all rock. And don't worry about it because it's a throwaway car. Get it up there, take it to a used car lot, try to get $500 for it, whatever. Then jump on a plane, fly home, and go ta-da. So that's one of the other things that I'm kicking around as a plan. It's like here, in June, around a ditch there. In June, the wife and I flew to Chicago. Look here, I thought of buying a limo and doing what you're. Yeah, exactly. Just something fun. I don't know if a limo is the right vehicle to take up there, but yeah, the same concept. We flew to Chicago, spent the night, and got on the Amtrak Empire Builder. We had a roomette, and we traveled all the way across the United States to Seattle, got on a plane and flew home. Why? Why not? Because we've never been on a train before. India, but there is a state called, we are Asian. Accolade. We are Asian. Oh, okay. They also got on a map. I saw that, I think Pakistan is like cut in half by India. They have two pieces. Train trip across. But yeah, the reason I went that route is from what I could see on the Amtrak map, it was the longest run you could make without changing trains. And one of the things I did some research on YouTube, the answer to all your questions. Don't schedule the train within 2 hours of your flight home because the train's going to be late. So make it like the next day because trains run late. It's just the way it is. But that was the longest trip I could find where we didn't have to get off and switch trains. And that was the northern part of the country was the one place wife and I haven't traveled. And there's one in California. I don't remember what it's called. It was on the coast. People say it's really nice. And in advice I learned, sleeper cars come with free food. If your meals are free, which is nice. We had what's called a roomette, which is about the best for your dollar, what you're going to get. Make sure you get upstairs. There's upstairs and downstairs. And if you're downstairs, there might be a beautiful view out the side, but if there's a bunch of trees right there, you can't see it. So if you ever do the train, make sure you get a room on the top so you can see over the obstacle. Yeah, there's a roomette, a room, and then the family room, which is on both sides. And that one's actually not really good because the way you sleep, your head rocks back and forth. It's kind of weird. But dollar for dollar, the best thing you can get for two people or one person is a roomette, where you're sitting facing each other, and then at night they come and drop your bunks down and set it all up. It was a pretty good deal. The top bunk was a little smaller than the bottom bunk, but you have a dinner car. You go in and they teach 3 meals a day. At this particular moment, I still think I'm in Tennessee. I would like to emphasize think. So I'm northeast bound. At some point, I'm going to hit, I don't know. I can't see. If I see a highway sign that gives me a state name, I'll tell you. I'm at mile marker 24, and I think it's winding down. I'll let you know. You drive around here, you do this long enough, you quickly lose track of where you are and where you've been. You can only go back so far that your brain shuts down. Rogersville 25, Bristol 55. What state is Bristol now? Back this out here. Let me look at my GPS. Greenville to the right, Kingsport up there, Johnson City. I guess we're heading maybe towards Kentucky. I'm at 81 north, I can tell you that. State of denial. It's like exercising. You jump to conclusions and dodge responsibility. Whatever it takes. Seat mileage, 161. Oof. I haven't seen a welcome to sign, so I'm guessing I'm still in Tennessee. That's my best guess. Tell you guys earlier, I went to because I was way early for my pickup this morning. I went to this little hole-in-the-wall car wash that was borderline useless. Uh, what these car wash places do is you've got soap and wax and degreaser and blah, 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 blah. And there are hoses going in these 5-gallon buckets. And what happens is they run out of chemicals. The product is gone. And they conveniently forget to refill them for, weeks. And go, oh, gee, I guess it just ran out. So not, it doesn't cost them money. And that's why they do it. And this one, it didn't have soap. It didn't have anything. And I'm just spraying it. And it had a scrub brush, which didn't produce any soap. But the scrub brush has that big stick on it. This one didn't. It was like a handheld mop, a handheld sweeper. But what are you supposed to do with that? You can't reach it. Exit 36. I may be making a stop up here. Just see how far exit 36 is. There's a gas price look good. Oh, pick him up, truck. Oh, if anybody's out there thinking about buying a Range Rover, don't. People like it. I think it's a status symbol. But start reading about them. People that buy them hate them because they're junk. And there was a Range Rover back there, and the guy was working under it. They just aren't reliable cars. Oh, my marker 27. Okay, wait a minute. So the numbers are going up. On our left, that's what my wife would call a parking lot. Red state or blue state or McDonald state. What? Tennessee? I don't know what Tennessee is. I think it's a red state. Blue cities, but a red state. I'm from England. Range Rovers are renowned for being shite. That's what I'm saying. You read the reviews on them, and people spit bullets at them. My parents bought a really fancy, really interesting looking Mazda. I think it's called a CX-5 that my stepfather was asking me about. What do you think of Range Rover? And I struck my head. I said, steer clear, steer clear, steer clear, steer clear. He started reading about him. He's like, wow, you weren't kidding. You weren't. I said, just, there is no make nor model of car on the planet that is faultless. But if you start reading reviews and everybody says the same thing, oh, the electric windows fell out, the transmission blew up, and you start reading it over and over, you start to see a pattern. You can have a freak problem in the vehicle, but if a whole bunch of people have the exact same problem, you're seeing a pattern. And people who buy something they like won't write a review on it. People who buy something they hate will spend plenty of time talking smack about it. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. So you're not finding anything about it. That's a good sign. Expensive, complicated, and depreciation. That's what yeah, exactly, Mr. M Happy. That's actually one of my screen names is Mr. Happy on one of my other places. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's too many moving parts. Overly complicated. Honda, Toyota. I agree. Honda and I like Hondas. They've taken a few hits recently. They've had some issues recently. I know Nissan was always been a big car maker, but they're having a lot of problems right now, and it has to do with that stupid CVT transmission. My parents' other car is an Altima, and the warranty on the car was 60,000 miles, and at 61,000 miles, the transmission fell out of it. and they spent $8,000 replacing a crap transmission with another crap, the exact same transmission. It's not like it's any better, which is a sad state of affairs. For simplicity, to be honest with you, I like Ford products. A lot of people don't. I don't have any problem with them. I like Volkswagens are complicated, but I like them. Our Kia hasn't given us, like I said, in 11 years, the only non-routine maintenance was that fuel pump. The fuel pump, because of the gas gauge, was giving us fun information. No complaints. Well, for a second. It says if I stay driving nonstop, I'll get there by midnight. Maybe I should look to see what time this is due tomorrow, because I didn't even look. I just started driving. Okay. Nope, another side coming up. Johnson City, 40 miles. Johnson City. Johnson City. You know the name, don't know what state it's in. So our household vehicles at this point are this van, which is my work truck, my wife's Kia Soul, and I have my badass Suzuki Berkman, which is a scooter. And to be honest with you, in my life, I did the math one day. I figured out I've owned 15 motorcycles in my life, street bikes and dirt bikes. And this is my favorite. This ridiculous little scooter with a big, huge under-seat storage area, and it's comfortable, and my wife likes riding on it. And we goof off and go run around. 200 cc's. It'll haul the two of us on the interstate. I mean, what's that all about? We run around. We really enjoy it. Really, really enjoy riding. And depending on where we end up, that might be our car. That or something like it might be the only car we own when we're retired. Ford or better in the U.S. We're here. Yeah, go boost engines and then how many miles with one timepiece. Like Eco Boom. Well, I understand. There's Ford's had, they've had their bad runs of vehicles, and they've had some dog engines and stuff. Uh, like I said, that other lady had 665,000 miles on her van, same year, same model of mine. I'm like, whoa. But this is all highway because the EcoBoost, I haven't read a whole lot of good things about that. Yeah, Ford Europe, they make cars I've never heard of. Models that I had never even a Mundo or something. I'm like, oh, that's a little weird. But yeah, that's a whole different can of worms. But my wife and I were talking about we're probably going to stick with Kia going forward. He said exit 36 up here. I saw a sign for a pilot. I may be pulling in there for fuel. So I may have cut this out here in fuel. So I got to take a break. I don't even know how far I've driven. 100, 100, I don't even know how far I've gone. Oh, go booms. I like that. I mentioned earlier I had a twin turbo Volkswagen Bug that I really liked. It was a really fast car, but it was an electrical. I go to work for like 2 weeks, come back, and I have to go in and get it worked on. There's something. It was under warranty still, but there was something with the electrical system going wrong constantly. They made them in 02, 3, and 4. I think mine was in 03. Fast car, overlapping turbochargers. I mean, that car is 6-speed transmission. It would shite it would go. But I always have to take it to the shop, get it worked on. And I said, yeah, well, this warranty expires all these future breaks are going to be on me, and I don't want to do that, so I got rid of it. Go 15, 17. The gas prices up here with my discount, it's 242, which is doable. Comparatively speaking. Is this 36? All right, back into coasting mode. 36. This is my turn off. I got a TA, a shell. There it is. I'm good. It's on my side. All right, we're gonna pull off here real quick. I got to get fuel, and I got to go check out their facilities. Maybe get something besides water to drink. It's getting a little monotonous in here. Oh, my GPS doesn't like me getting off the highway. I'm sorry. Is that inconvenient to your schedule? I've been here before. I recognize this station. Oh my God, this is where I was yesterday. Because I spent the night last night over there at that one on the other side of the gas station. That's funny. This is where I was yesterday. I just went around in a great big circle. This is the new one. I didn't like their accommodations for sleeping, so I didn't stay here. I went over to the TA and was able to hide way in the back where people park their cars. Uh, huh. There's the taller version of my van right there. All right. Just for giggles, I'm going to let this run for a few minutes. I'm going to go in and get gas. I'll be gone a couple minutes, but I want to leave this on. And if anybody's a Viking and wants to be here when I get back, that's cool. But you got to give me a few minutes because I got to go walk around. Less than 10 minutes, and I'll be back. um, my butt needs to move around a little bit. All right, I'll be back. 14. See, now I have to use the calculator on here. Hold on, this may go out for a second. Need my calculator. We're back. All right, cool. All right, I had to use the calculator. I'll be back in a few. 3308. Well, did I just make a huge mistake? Hold on a sec. I foolishly went inside and decided, just going, to get a Subway. And who's working tonight? Zippy. Zippy, the world's fastest sandwich maker. Oh my God. Holy crap, that's this whole time I've been gone. Well, she fumbled around, thought about it. Arr. So anyway, we're taking on fuel right now. And again, if you're driving used Loves, Pilot Flying J, and I got a 10-cent discount, so I'm paying $2.42 for gas, which, comparatively speaking, is not that bad. Give me a hot second here, we'll be moving. Maybe, whoops, where's my keys? Here's my keys. Firing back up. I know it's open. Okay, 21.8 is where my mileage ended up on this tank of 350 miles. And don't think eco mode. All right, hold on one second here. Waiting on the super fast gas pump. That was sarcasm. Ooh, air going. We'll get rolling here in a second. Yeah, this was 40. I eyeball the gas gauge, figure how many gallons I need, and then do the math based on my fuel purchase with the discount, and then I round it to the nearest. So this is $43 for this fuel up. Do 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 do. Wow, go slower. Do do go go. Go. What's my gas gauge? Yeah, full enough. Yeah, it's right there in the zone. All right, we're rolling. Again, sorry for the delay, but Zippy was working tonight. Well, there's the sign, the gas prices. And again, I get a 10-cent discount when you have the app. So in the future, if you're using this, make sure you have the app. Do, do. Yeah, I was literally here last night. I woke up this morning right across the highway. It's like, that's why I've seen this place before. Whoopty bump, bump. There we go. I stayed right there. TA across the highway. Do. Says midnight. So I'm kind of, looks like I'm 5 hours out, is what it's trying to show me. There's a law first. It's making it sound. Alrighty. That guy's hauling ass for that box. He must not be paying for the fuel. And 62. We're back. Okay, we're back up at speed. Again, I apologize for the departure, but I had to grab some munchies and I had to use the pate and I had to wait for this woman to make this sandwich. My God, it wasn't that complicated. But she certainly made it seem right. So I am in the process of unrolling this as we're driving along. Two, oh, two hands, two hands. And bottom of my screen is blank. I guess it reloaded with nobody's on here showing me anything. A rest area is an okay place to spend the night in a pinch. But just remember, when you up, there's no coffee, there's no breakfast, there's no food. Just keep that in the back of your mind so you keep at least a small stash of munchies and something on board to keep you alive. Oh, Jonesboro, next town. Sun's starting to set. Again, in Texas, we don't have chiseled clouds. We have smeared clouds. So that cloud there on the horizon, I appreciate the shape of it. Low humidity. It looks nice. On a side note, when I used to fly out in the Gulf, flying my mighty Jet Ranger, on a few occasions I got up into the clouds and got above them. And if you go to the top of a billowing cloud like that, it's actually growing as you look at it. And we're not going that fast. So you fly fairly close to it. And as it's billowing, you can see it. And if you fly directly over the top, you'll actually feel it push you up a little bit from the upward draft of air. Whereas something you wouldn't know was happening unless you were in something flying really, really slow. I don't know what's going on with my feet, but it's not looking right. So I may have to kill it, see what's going on. All right, so you'll bear with me. I don't know what's going on with my feet. It looks wrong. It doesn't have the scroll on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and kill this, take a break, and I'll maybe come back in a little while. Okay. Yeah, it's not letting me. Yeah, something I can't even kill this. Oh. All right, cool. It's working. It had it frozen up or something. The screen would stop moving. I guess that was reverted. Okay, I did a quick stop back there. I had to get food, and I had to deal with the slowest sandwich maker the world has ever seen. Good God Almighty, that was frustrating waiting on her. And we're back motoring. I did think about getting air. I should have gotten air back there. I'm gonna have to get that tire looked at some point. According to my GPS, I'm gonna be where I need to be at midnight tonight, which is 5 hours, which would be kind of cool. Mr. Oh, check the oil, check the oil. I think, what's my fuel saying? Oil life, 24%. I'm all right. I think I'm going to have enough oil life left to finish off this coming week so that I can take it to the farm and get up under it there and fix this and freshen the oil change on this thing. Alrighty. Yeah, I've lost most of people here. I'm down to 4. We'll see if it's around a little bit. Oh, more people to death. Anybody got a topic? I'm kind of running out of talking points at this juncture. Oof. Today is the 15th. I think my nephew, I guess, My cousin's son and his girlfriend getting married tomorrow in New York. So there's going to be the hubbub of that. And we'll be coming in after that whole rigmarole is finally done. That's the plan, at least. It was weird that my cousin and his wife both got really, really, really sick this last week. They had the flu. Both of them are knocked flat on their ass for I think 6 or 7 days. My guy's towing something very heavy on a trailer hitch, and it's leaning the trailer down and bending his truck backwards. He's probably got a car in there. Yeah, I don't know what I think I'm in Tennessee. I haven't seen a sign that said, "Hey, you're not in Tennessee anymore." So I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for at this point. My GPS doesn't give me state lines. We're on 81 northeast bound, I guess. I got a container of that Milo sweet tea. Stuff's pretty good. Surprisingly good, actually. I had to get after a while, you just kind of get tired of it. Your body's like, Has anybody been watching the news with this Trump Putin thing? Has anything come out of it? Because I'm not seeing the news when I'm driving down the road. I was curious if anybody's, other than just throwing around catchphrases, was anything coming from it? If anybody knows, what's this guy doing? Getting furniture out of your car. Oh, they're just setting up furniture on the side of the road. They literally have umbrella chairs back there. They're just, stop in the middle of nowhere and take a break and sit in the chairs. Probably not the safest place to be doing that. Ooh. Said anybody got a topic? Throw it. Yeah, I had to reset this page. I don't understand what was happening, but all the little markers on there were gone. We got 2 lanes to play with. We got a center divider with the heavy trees, so you can't even see the other side of the road, which is nice. You don't have to look at blinding headlights in the dark. I very much prefer that. Oof. Yeah, so I've got this delivery in the morning. I'm still going to be in a fairly decent area, so I will be ready to bounce if they call. But as soon as I'm off the reservation, dropping this, I'm going to go online and I'm going to look up for museums around me or attractions around me. If I find a museum that I find interesting, I'm going to go over there and do some filming. I found one the other day. I don't remember what the heck I was. It was a train depot museum and it had little model trains and stuff in it. And I ran around and filmed that and enjoyed it. How are you, this driver? I just got to stop for a break. Got to use a pate. I grabbed something to eat and a little bottle of tea here, little Milo's tea. Got my fuel on, and I'm feeling better. You just can't sit forever. It's not good for you. You get out and you walk like a zombie. But I'm feeling good now. Got to move around and stretch out. I have a tendency to stop at rest areas, park as far away as possible. How long have I been a driver? I did expediting back during COVID for 15 months, because our whole helicopter operation got shut down. And I started back doing this in March. And I'm retired from aviation, and I'm going to be probably doing this for the next few years, unless something weird happens. And I don't mind doing this. I don't mind traveling. It's kind of low stress. I don't like being away from the wife that long, but I'm kind of learning the industry from I learned the ins and outs the first time I did it, and I adjusted. I'm making okay money, not phenomenal, but I put 42,000 miles on this van since March. So I'm getting my miles in. Oh, I hear you. Take a look at this. Somebody's going on a camping trip. No, I drive a Expediter van. I'm not driving a truck. This is the lazy man's version. I was actually in a parking lot the other day, and a guy was sitting next to me, and he owned his own miniature trucking company. He had 3 trucks, and he had just sold his trucks and turned in his MC number. He said, "I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore." He said, "It's just too much of a pain in the ass." And he's getting undercut in the big trucks. You got these people coming in from overseas, and the U.S. government says, "Here, have thousands of dollars." And they don't understand how to bid properly, and they're underbidding everybody, and it's kind of ruining it for drivers. And that sucks. Yeah, I'm new. I'm just doing expediting. I was a helicopter pilot. That was my job. I did 35 years in the cockpit, and now this is my retirement job. So I come from a different. Yeah, my uncle was the driver for, good God Almighty, almost 50 years, and he talked about that. He talked about they go from being professional drivers to steering wheel holders. And I've had in my 4 months, 5 months out here, I've had 2 run-ins with trucks so far. And one was a guy. I sit over here in the right lane. I set my cruise on 62, sweet spot. Leave me alone. I had one guy pass me, barely pass me. He got about 50%, so his dualies were behind me, and then he just moved over into my lane. Just zip, and pushed me out of the lane. And I was in I-80, and I was going westbound in Ohio. You got 3 lanes to play with, the concrete wall, and I'm over in the right lane, and I got a big truck in the middle lane next to me passing slowly, and then I don't know what's going on the other side of him. And this truck came whipping up behind me, flashing his headlights and blowing his horn. You know, the international, get the hell out of my way. I'm like, dude, I'm over in the right lane where I'm supposed to be. You know, this is where I am. And this guy, what's he want me to do? Speed up so he can flash and pass everybody in the right lane? Is that the plan here? That's the only 2 run-ins I've had with drivers for real trucks. I just thought that was kind of unnecessary. I did have an expediter walk up to me with a translator, electronic translating device. I think the guy was Oriental, skinny guy. He might have been Japanese. And he pushed the button and it said, "What are we waiting for?" or something. I told him and it translated back, and we're waiting for something to open up. And he said, "Oh, okay," you know, but he had to use a translator. And I'm like, should you really be out here being cut loose if you can't understand the language? Yeah, I was talking earlier about that. I did a pickup at some place in, I'm already forget, Coverville, I don't remember, wherever I just left. I went to some big, huge warehouse complex, and I pull up to the gate, and there's a little teeny tiny guard shack, and somehow they got 2 people in there, and they're wearing like paramilitary gear, and I go, oh boy, here it goes. And sure enough, man, that they were like CIA secret agents with, you know, the importance of their job, and, you know, just delay, more paperwork, you know, and just making it unnecessary. And then the guy said, "Go to door 19, because that's what the drivers are." And I drive a pretty good distance into this plant to find 19, and there's a bunch of trailers backed up the doors. There's nobody back there. So I just pull up, jump out of my van, and I go to run in. And the yard monkey comes by in his little truck, and he goes, "Oh, no, you can't leave there. This is, you know," oh my God. He goes, "Park there." And he points to the other side of the parking lot right there. And there's this sign that says, "No parking anytime." And he literally points at that sign and says, "Park there." Okay. and I nosed in over there, and I jumped out of the van, and the same guy pulls up and he goes, "No, park sideways." And I started laughing. And then he started getting pissy, and I said, "Dude, I don't have a problem, but park in the no parking zone and then park differently in the no parking zone. I mean, let's get somewhere." And he kind of got huffy and stomped off. No, why be like that? But I ran into a load. I was supposed to pick up something from FedEx. And I'm in a van. I carry 1 or 2 pallets tops. And I went to FedEx, and they said, "Yeah, you got to go there, grab something, take it wherever." Well, I had to get through the gate guard, and that gate guard didn't have what he needed from somewhere, and he wasn't letting me through. So I sit outside and I call my people, and they call their people, and then more phone calls happen. I sat outside in the parking lot for like 4 hours. And then they finally closed down for the day, and my boss said, "Okay, forget it," took off. The next morning, I get a call. "Hey, do you have my stuff?" And I said, "Who's this?" They're the customer that was supposed to be getting that whatever I was supposed to pick up. And I said, "No, I don't have it." They go, "Why don't you have it?" I said, "I couldn't pick it up." "Well, why couldn't you pick it up?" Because I couldn't get past the gate guard. "What did you tell him?" I said, "I spent over 2 hours in the parking lot arguing back and forth with all the management, and I couldn't get my stuff. He wouldn't even let me on the property. I don't have it. I'm gone." A few minutes later, I get a call from the head honcho of the guy that just called me. He's like, "Hey, wait a minute. What's it?" I told him. And then those phone calls, I guess, flew around. So when the gate guard had my phone number, he calls me. The guy that was being a jackass calls me, and he goes, "Hey, you're getting me in trouble." I said, "For what? Doing what you did? What do you want me to do? You're the one that wouldn't let me in the damn gate. And you're acting like it's not your fault. Well, you're going to get me fired." "Oh, well, you know, it's so that's not my, this is your doing, dude. Don't get mad at me." Yeah, I do. I laugh stuff off. I don't road rage. I don't get excited. I don't start getting pissy with people at the shops. What I do is I kind of have let's call it a type A plus personality. I go in there bouncing off the walls, telling jokes. I got some canned jokes I use. And if you get people laughing, things get really efficient, I've noticed. So I usually go in there joking about something. And, I walk in some place and they say, "Oh, well, you need to go down and talk to that guy over there, on the other end of the, building." And I said, "Okay." And I'll hold my hand down. I said, "Is there anybody you want me to slap? You just give me their names and I'll take." He goes, they start listing names. Go slap all right, I got you covered. And then I'll walk down there and I'll say something like, "Yeah, I was told to come down here and talk to a really skinny guy named Fat Tony." They just kind of present it in that format, and then they start laughing. And things just start moving. And I do that everywhere, and it actually works. I mean, it's actually worked for me because most people are there. It's like they're on death. They're on death row. They're just bummed and they're quiet. And they look at their feet. I've tried to talk to some of the other drivers, and they won't even acknowledge me, so I just ignore them. And I just keep staying in there, bouncing off the walls. And I tell you what, I get in it quick. It works. And I would do it anyway because that's my personality. So like when I was a pilot, I'd be picking somebody up and they would say, "Oh, I'm nervous about flying." And I'd always take off my sunglasses and look at them cross-eyed and go, "Why? All we got to do is keep this aircraft in the middle of the runway." And then they start backing up. I can't control myself. Duh. I didn't clean my windows. I got so flustered by Subway Sally back there that I forgot to clean my windows. Ah, missed. Trying to put something in the trash. The trash can't move. It wasn't my fault. It's trash can's fault. It's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Don't try to change it. You're talking about nuclear power plants. I went into one. I pulled. I didn't film it. I wasn't doing live stream stuff at the time. And I pull up to the gate, And there's these guys walking around wearing trench coats, carrying M16s because, oh my God, this is some serious business. And you drive into a trap and they close the gates and they tell you to get out, open all the doors, and they're looking in the van and they got cameras under the van and you got to walk way out to the right and go through some turnstiles and go through a zigzag concertina wire, go into a room, give them your ID, give them all this information, and then you walk out another door, go through more turnstiles, go back into the trap, and then they dramatically open the other side. You go, I don't know, 25 feet, and then the trap behind you closes, and then the ground in front of me came up. These two pipes popped out of the ground. Now I'm caught between some concrete walls and these pipes. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And then they drop that. I move over. There's the warehouse. And they open the warehouse door, and they hand me a box. I mean, it could have been a box with a pair of boots in it for all I know. And there's somebody standing there holding a weapon in their hand. And then I turn around and go the 50 feet back, and we basically do the same thing in reverse, getting out of there. And it took 45, 50 minutes to go 125 feet in to pick up this box and come back out. And then I went to New Jersey to drop it off. I drove on the property, past the empty guard shack, around the silos, up to the dock, and I got out and I walked in the building and said, I got a box. Hey, thanks, sign here, have a nice day. And got in my van and left. What? It was like I was dropping off supplies at Burger King, the way they treat it. Oh, looks like it. Hold on. Let's see. Org Small Gardner says hi. Hi back at you. Jeff McCutcheon, New Jersey, right on, Guard State. Works Pakistan. First one from Pakistan. And Sir Jeff, you're say hi. Hi back at you. And yeah, Pakistan. That's cool. I've had a couple of guys from India on here. What's this guy doing? Like messing with that dude. Let everybody just came on. I picked up a load in a town. I can't remember the name of it, but I went 100 miles across northern Tennessee on 40 going east. I turned up 81, and I'm ultimately tonight or tomorrow dropping off a small crate of whatever the heck that is behind me, some kind of transmission parts in Parkland. 2 words, Park and Lynn, Parkland, Pennsylvania. This is a direct, but I think they're not going to be there till the morning. And according to my GPS, I'll be there around midnight. So I'll just crash out till the sun comes up, drop it, and then I'll be back on the board. But as soon as I come back on the board, I'm going to see if I can find a museum I like. Museums that have to do with transportation or military history or aircraft or something like that. I do rail museums. That's kind of my little part-time hobby. Since you're going to be out here, you might as well enjoy it. You know what I mean? You can only sit in the van and watch so many videos and listen to so much audiobooks, and then you just gotta, I gotta do something different. This Subaru right here had an antenna hanging off the other side. Hey, dude, you need to get that fixed. Come over. And we are, like I said, we're on 81, and I think that's THINK. I think I'm still in Tennessee. About 100% on it. Nope, no logbooks. This is just like driving your car. There's no logbooks. There's no time constraints. I don't go through commercial vehicle checkpoints. I don't go to weigh stations. I am completely ignored by DOT. And these vans are everywhere. Oh, it's this gas cap hanging off. I should have a check engine light going on. No, they completely leave us alone. And if you combine the total time I've driven this time, went back to my other time, I have 240,000 miles and I've never been pulled over or looked at for anything. I mean, these vans are completely ignored on the road, and they're everywhere. If you see a white van go by, look at the license plate. If it's from another state, it's a Sprinter. I'm in Tennessee right now. You watch one will go by. It's unmarked. It's got Florida plates. It's a Sprinter. Here, Bristol. That's coming up. Bristol's coming up. There goes one right there. He's got Pennsylvania tags. That's literally the same van I'm driving right there. And I own my van. Some people drive for somebody else. I sold my car and I bought this van. It's used. Don't have any van. I don't have a van note. The company I'm signed on with, they pay my loaded insurance. I pay the empty insurance. So I'm paying $229 a month for empty insurance, plus gas and food and maintenance and stuff like that. I run an app on my phone. It's called Fetch, like throwing a stick to your dog. I also and it just you're just taking pictures of receipts. It gives you points, and after you build up a bunch of points, you can cash out and get money out of it. I also use the Upside app, which gets me money, and I cash that both of those. I cash out. I send to Amazon, and then I buy my oil on Amazon. I run on Castor Oil 520 full synthetic, the GTX, the good stuff. Oh, the Edge. Excuse me. I run Castor Oil Edge, and delivered to the house. It's $23 for 5 quarts, and you can buy the Motorcraft filters. Anything but Fran. Don't use anybody other oil filter as long as it's not Fran. I get those for $9 a piece. So basically, I let receipts and Upside pay for my oil, and I do my own oil change. Because you go in and do an oil change, they're going to charge you, $110 or something. You do it yourself. Because of using Upside, it's like $35, if that, and it's not even money that came out of your pocket. It's money that came off taking receipts. So the thing about Fetch is how they make their money is they say, hey buddy, if you buy this product over here because we see what you're buying, we'll give you more points because it'll quickly get you up to where you get money. Remember, it's receipts. It didn't say it was your receipts. And I'm not beyond going around the parking lot and picking them up out of shopping carts. And Walmart receipts are the best because it's a lot of food items on there. And you just cash out the money. It's free money. And they're paying for my oil changes. So there's not that expense anymore. They drive like a girl. How do you know? You obviously have never seen my wife drive. Well, let me ask you a question, Robert. How many times have you done the Cannonball run out of curiosity? 62. Let's see here. 21 miles per gallon. It's worked its way up to 32 miles. Not getting as good mileage for some reason. Maybe that tire. Drive like a regular person. I go 62 and I stay in the right lane. Mile marker. Whoa. Exit 69. Stand by. There it is. Coming up. Marker 69.2. Unware. So staying in the right lane is driving like an ass. Oh, okay. I don't road rage. I don't kick and claw and fight my way in traffic to get one car lane closer than people seem to treat like a sport. I just sit here and drive. I don't make an issue out of it. Life's too short to sleep over this. I see drivers out here throwing colossal fits because they want to go 90 miles an hour and they're throwing a fit at somebody who's stuck behind somebody else. Like them having an out of body experience is going to make the person two or three cars up, do whatever they want. This is not how the world works. It's possible. Like I said, I'm 57 years old. I held the Cannonball Run world record for a solo driver for about 3 years, and I have never had a speeding ticket in my life. Ah, Don't don't think for a hot second I don't deserve a bunch, but I've never had one because I drive like I fly. Paranoid. What does an undercover patrol car look like? The Ford Explorer or Exploder police package. You come up behind one of them. Look at the roof. You know how it has the Ford Explorers have those two little runners on the roof? Kind of goes fore and aft. It's like a rack. It stands up an inch or two. The police package, marked or unmarked, will not have that. It'll be smooth roof. You come up behind the car at night. The Exploder, the Ford Exploder has a C-shaped lights. They face inward toward it's like a letter C. If you look at the car during daylight hours, it'll be impeccably clean. It will not have a license plate ring on it. It will not have a bumper sticker. It will not have a Bob Smith Ford sticker on it. And here's a little one for you. The regular run-of-the-mill Ford Explorers have chrome-tipped exhaust pipes. The police models don't have the chrome tips, and the pipes bend downward 90 degrees. There's something you probably didn't notice. And of course, the steel wheels. Look for the hockey puck antennas. And every once in a while, I see somebody that tries to doctor their car up to look like a police vehicle, try to push people through traffic. And those vehicles usually are older, and they have little knocks and dings and scratches on them, and just indicators it's not a patrol car. You forgot falls, better to be safe. Sorry. Yeah. So Winchester, VA. Am I going to be going through Virginia? I don't even know. I don't know if I've been on this road any time recently. And of course, like I said, the steel wheels. I've read that the headlights coming at you, the headlights on a police vehicle are brighter, which I don't know. I've never really had a chance to test that. And the greatest gift to cannonballers was when they started driving Chargers, because you see that big ring license plate miles ahead of you. That really helped out a lot. See those things coming. Oh, and the police vehicles also, marked or unmarked, have illegally tinted windows. That's another giveaway. Sometimes they have lights around their license plate, their flashing lights that kind of hide it. But if you're paying attention, you can pick out an undercover pretty quick. I don't have to worry about it anymore because I don't drive that fast. But up to Maryland, that'd be okay, cool. So we'll be going through there. 21.3 miles per gallon. Come on, car. Come on, give me some better mileage. Virginia Welcome Center. That answers the question. And yes, we tap the horn around here. Over 74 miles, my next turn on 77 Bluefield. Patsy Cline was born in Winchester. No kid. Huh. When I was a kid, he said my dad flew. He was a Delta Airlines. Well, at the time, he flew for Western Airlines, and he was stationed in Hawaii. When I was a little kid, I lived in California, and as an airline family, we used to fly for free. So Friday, we get off school, get on a plane, fly to Hawaii, spend the weekend with my dad, and then Sunday we get back on the plane and fly home. And to me, that was completely normal. But I look back on it, that was kind of weird. So here we go. Hold on. We got to hit the horn. Virginia. Okay, we're in Virginia. It's official. And he had a condominium or an apartment or something that we stayed at. but he had a friend that had this really fancy house that was by the ocean, and if the whole front of the house was open, you couldn't close it physically. It was like big open bay windows, but there was no windows. It was kind of a cool setup. And you could walk down a path through some coral, and there was a saltwater swimming pool. They built a pool out of some really rough stuff by the ocean, and waves would slam into it and go over it and fill it up. And it was kind of a cool thing. And you could go out the front door, and there was a little skinny. Why are you sitting there? There was a little skinny road for a single car. And what I remember about the house is they had the Japanese design doors where there's a round doorknob in the middle of the middle of the door wasn't on the side. And the guy that lived next door was Tom Selleck. But in the 1970s, Tom Selleck was nobody. He was just the neighbor, Tom. Hey, how you doing? You know, we'd see him all the time. And then in the late 70s, I've stopped going. That stop had moved. And then Magnum PI comes out in 81. We're like, oh, that was my dad's neighbor. Durango 87 octane. What does that mean, William? You put 87, you have a Dodge Durango, and you run 87 in it? Is that what you're saying? If you ever get a chance, run if you're, I think I saw in Minnesota, it's a fuel called Blue 88. It's 15% ethanol, but it's 88 octane. I ran it my last van and didn't have any negative effects, and it cost like 15 cents a gallon less. I experimented, ran the same. So they're giving you a little more of that ethanol garbage, but when they bump the octane up, it offsets it. Look at that. That's that guy's personal vehicle. 4 jet skis. 89 octane is best. Yeah, it depends on what you're driving. Our Kia Soul, we found out the hard way, it doesn't like regular gas. It's happy on mid-grade, but the regular gas, it just didn't like it. And it doesn't call for it in the manual, but it didn't like it. So we always ran 89 mid-grade. That on your right is a giant sound barrier because there was a whole town, a whole settlement over there. And that just bounces the sound away from it. I imagine they got tired of listening to cars. Okay. What great Scottish name do you have, Robbie? Hi, Letty. Door's blown off over here. Okay. My next turn is 69 miles, and it looks like on the GPS, my next town I go through is Abingdon. Yeah, and this 87 octane, yeah, it runs fine on this. Just basic fuel. It's actually turbocharged, but Ford found a way of running turbocharged vehicles on regular gas. I don't know how they did it. But yeah, it doesn't, I've never had it knock or ping or give me any issues. I buy Lucas injector cleaner. I buy them in bulk, get them cheap, and you buy a handful. And I about every third tank, I shove one in there. Irish whiskey. I can't imagine doing this, paying for high-end fuel. That would be curious about the Mercedes Sprinter. Do they have that? Do they run on higher octane fuel just because it's a Mercedes? You don't see as many of them out here. You see the Transit, the ProMaster. And if you're thinking about getting into this line of work, I highly recommend you go sit in the driver's seat of a ProMaster because the seating position isn't for everybody, including me. Whereas this Transit is like driving a car. The the ProMaster, the Dodge ProMaster, is like driving a bus. The steering column is steep. It's kind of like down by your legs. They turn it so the steering wheel position is awkward. And I'm 6'4", and tall guys either have their height on top or their height on bottom. It's their legs or their body. In my case, it's my body. So I sit up kind of high. I could just barely reach the steering wheel, even after I pulled it all the way out. I mean, just barely. Most recommend top tier 89 octane. Yeah, I wouldn't run in this because the van just doesn't need it. It runs fine like this. But yeah, we do 89 in my wife's car. Yeah, you got to go. That's cool. Do your thing, mister. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep this going. This, good God Almighty, this has been 3.5 hours. I didn't realize that. Wow. Well, like I said, I like talking with people. I like hearing people's jokes, and I like watching people talk to other people on here, which is kind of funny, kind of enjoyable. But do your thing. Yeah, don't waste your time on here all day. And I found out through trial and error that I can flip this on at any time of the day and people pop in. Because one of my most successful streams ever, I started at 11:30 at night. You know, all of a sudden people overseas were jumping on. That guy from Berlin, one from UK. I was like, whoa, because that's what time they're up. You know, it was kind of fun. It helps the time go by. And most people jump on here to see what it looks like, driving around the United States, because you don't really get a view like this. You get snapshots, you get TV shows, garbage like that. All right, well, go do your thing, mister. Well, if you get up to speed on a slide, no, I can't see what this guy does. Wagoneer. And if anybody's looking for a vehicle, let's say, seems like good. Why, thank you. I mean, not to mention I'm shockingly handsome and an incredible dancer. I mean, that's on the side. Yeah, I started doing YouTube in 22 when I was when I started expediting. I actually started talking about expediting, and I got out of it, and I actually changed the name of my channel because I wasn't doing it. I was just telling jokes and observations and nonsense. And then I got back into expediting. I'm like, well, I can't change the name back, so I'm going to leave with what I have. And 3 legs in, that phrase comes from one of our cats. My wife and I live in a townhouse, a 2-story townhouse, and she bought one of those. We have 2 cats, and she bought one of those fancy schmancy cat litter boxes that looks like a drum. And yeah, humble. It's difficult that sometimes you have to. No, it had a drum that the cat gets in and it does her business and leaves, and then the machine turns over and it filters through the old litter and it gets the clunky stuff out and it separates it. Well, when you go from a cat box to this, the cats are like, I don't know. They're looking at it and looking at kind of a little. It's in the same place, and their cat box is gone. There's this, so the cats are kind of, I don't know. The one cat decided to get brave and got its head in and got 1 leg in. It's like 1 paw, and then it got another paw, so the body is halfway in, and then it got its 3rd leg in, and the one of its legs was stretched to the extreme with their toe touching the floor like it was safe. If you could just have this 1 leg stretched to the extreme, tapping the floor, even though the whole body was in the box. And I said, that cat is not fully committed. It's 3 legs in, but it's not fully committed to getting in the box. So I walked over and poked it with my finger, and it went in. And that's where the name 3 legs in comes from. Just watching these cats go, man, you're not going to be safe because you're stretched out touching the floor. That's not a home base. What you call a Mexican guy who drives a chariot? What? Ben Hernandez. That's hardcore. Some guy came out here the other day and said, "What do you call a rich Chinese guy? Cha-ching." Right to the point. Yeah, all right. I've got a, like I said, a type A plus personality, and I kind of tone it down here. But people look at me and they say, "You're married?" Yeah. They're like, "Really?" And then they meet my wife. And they go, "Oh, okay, I get it." My wife's a lunatic, like I am. That's why we get along so well. Like I said, I come up with a bad idea. She backs my play. We're off to the races. Well, whereas some women will be real, standoffish of certain things and certain ideas. She's like, "Let's do it." Like we went to Puerto Vallarta, loved it. We went to Tulum, which is south of Cancun, and I do not recommend that area. It's a dump. It didn't work out, but we did have one really fun experience. We did an excursion where you go snorkeling in some underground caverns and you go into a cave, more or less, and it's got, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but stalagmites that come up from the floor and come down from the ceiling, and there's water in the middle, and you zigzag into this big open room where there's bats on the ceiling. You have waterproof flashlights. You can look up and see these bats hanging from the ceiling, and there's a hole in the roof where they go out. It's just fascinating. And it's cold water, cold, fresh water in the heat of Mexico. Then you swim out and you follow these other areas, these little caverns. You come out, and it was a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, on my page, if you look under the vacation one and scroll through, you see the bluey green water is one of the thumbnails, and it's the cave. I think it's called cave, not snorkeling, but norkeling with an N. You'll see what we did. We went through that cave. They're called, yes, the Yucatan Peninsula, and those watering holes, underground water holes, are called cenotes. And a lot of people commented, "Oh my God, I would never go in there. I would." My wife left a white foam behind her when she went charging in there head first because she has that kind of adventurous, personality. And they took us to one other place, which was an open air water hole. It was really deep. It had really interesting rocks. And while we're swimming, somebody yells into their mouthpiece, "Move over," because about a 5 foot long alligator swam past us. And I couldn't get my camera to work through the little waterproof case. I couldn't get a video of it. He just swam past us. I'm like, who gets to be underneath an alligator when it swims by? Like, "Hey, how you doing? Excuse me, pardon me." It lives there, and I guess they feed it, so it doesn't really care. But she gutsy like that, and that's what makes it fun. Is you go do stuff, and she's like, "Yeah, we're on board." They hop on a motorcycle, "Let's go." She's on board. She really knows how to drive too. Really, really knows how to drive. Yeah, the Yucatan Peninsula, as far as I'm concerned, is it's no more. They are destroying the tourist industry there with forced briberies, and violence. I mean, they're getting a really bad rap, and in short term, they're going to make a bunch of money by ripping people off. But then people are going to stop going. "I won't go there. I'll never go back." There were people on the beach enjoying the sand in Cancun, and the military everywhere. They're running around with their weapons held, and they're riding vehicles, and they're ready for war. And while we were there, they literally walked down the beach and told some beachgoers, "You need to give us 1,000 pesos," which is about $60 or something. And they go, "We don't have any money." "That's okay. We'll hold your family members at gunpoint. You can go to the hotel room and get it." That literally happened while we were there. My great grandfather fought in the Mexican after he graduated. Oh, right on. The Mexican American War? Right on. I That just cued some memory. I talked about this a long time ago, but a guy I used to work with back in the 80s when I was in high school, I think he was probably around 60-ish. He grew up, let's see, he, he was a little kid in the 1930s, I believe. And he lived in the South. I want to say he lived in Georgia or something. And something that happened in their school where every year they had like a celebration, an anniversary, because right next to their town there was a battle, some big battle. And the kids in the fifth grade class or the kids in the sixth grade class, I don't remember which, had to give up and get a speech because everybody's family was involved in this battle that happened, 55 years earlier. And they would say, my great grandfather, my grandfather, whoever was a general with this unit, or he was a colonel. Everybody's grandfather was a high rank in something, and they fought in the battle of so and so, and everybody had to tell their story. And it was like every year, like three kids had to tell their story, and then the next year, the new kids would move into the class, and they had to talk about their family. It was just something they did year after year after year. And one year, a girl moved from like New York and moved into the town. And she's going to the school, and I guess there was still animosity towards the North and the South. And they invited her to tell her side of the story. So this girl, who's very smart, did all the research into it, and she got up on the podium. And this is the year before my had to do it. Got up on the podium and I battle, but she said the battle of so and so didn't happen. And then people are looking at her. She said that it was the very end of the war. The battle was irrelevant. She found out that both sides kind of came together and said, look, this battle is not going to have an effect on the outcome of the war. It doesn't make any sense for us to kill each other. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go home and tell our family we kicked ass and took names. You go home and you tell your family you kicked ass and took names, and nobody's going to whisper a word of this. So they both shook hands on it, and they said, oh, by the way, you want something to drink? Here, have a drink. Hey, let's get a barbecue. Go kill a cow. They had a big barbecue. Everybody got snookered up. Everybody was having shooting contests. And then the next day they woke up with hangovers, said, okay, now you go north and brag about it. We'll go south, we'll brag about it. The battle never happened. And she found historical documents to prove this. They said the next year, that big annual anniversary celebration party it just didn't happen. They just decided to not do it anymore. And he didn't have to give a speech about it. Yeah, there's no, they just forgot about it. That's why I like talking to old people, which I'm quickly turning into. Is they've seen and heard some stuff that's not advertised, and I like the stories you get out of them. You look at these bushes on the left and right. I was right back there. There's some kind of an ivy vine that grows up around here, and it just eats trees for lunch. Let me see if I can see one coming up, and it will overtake a tree and basically kill it because the tree can't get light anymore. See if I can see one that's obvious. No, 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 no. Oh, there, but you can't see it. Yeah, it's just kind of an ivy plant that climbs up the tree and hangs off of it, and then the tree can't get sunlight. I've seen them go by, but they're not very big. Let's see here. Now, if you go to the base of the tree and cut the stuff off and yank it off, it's gone. Let me find one. No, no, no. Damn it, where is it? Yeah, my family knowledge of warfare goes back to World War II. I don't know anything prior to that. Anybody in my family who took part in whatever wars. Can't even see these trees. They're not doing over. Oh, never mind. Anyway, wow, gas is more expensive than Walmart. That's weird. Major General John Fulton Reynolds, commander of the First Third Corps, Army of the Potomac. Oh, right on. Yeah, we actually had I don't know about my dad's side. I don't really know the history, but on my mother's side, deja vu. Yeah, Ujade, a feeling of never being there before. He, we have history back to 1703 or 04 in the United States. It's just 3 generations before the Revolutionary War, and people go, "Oh, wow, your family were pioneers." No, they were horse thieves. They were cattle thieves in Europe, and apparently somebody found out about it. And they said, "Well, we got to go," and they jumped on the boat and left. That was their motivation. So they're not pioneers. They were just, you know, caught. So they took off. My dad's side, I think Grandpa came over at night. No, great grandpa came over at 1906. I think. I don't really have a good good focus on them. Oh, no kidding. Killed at Gettysburg? Wow. I was reading a world history, military history magazine years ago at Gettysburg specifically. There were some scholars who came to study something. They were college scholars, and they went to Gettysburg, and they got there super early in the morning. And occasionally they do, I guess, reenactments or something. And across there was a field, and about 200 yards away, they saw the reenactors. They were set up. They had tents. They had fires. They saw people walking around, and they actually stopped the car, got out, and were standing next to the car, looking at them in the distance and talking about how they were dressed, and the Southern guys were walking around barefoot and da da da. They were just watching it, and then they got back in their cars and they drove to where they were going to do their thing, and they asked, "When are they doing the reenactment? We saw the actors out there," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And they went back, and there was nobody there. And then the field was covered in dew, and they actually walked over there, and there were no footprints or anything in the snow, in the grass. And they were looking at each other. I mean, all four of them saw it, and they literally got out of the car and stood there and talked about it and made comments to each other about it. And they said, "There's nobody here." I was like, "Okay, that's creepy." But Gettysburg is hollow ground. And further reading about what happened, there was wow, this guy in front of me, you can't see it on the screen, but this dude in front of me is in a Ford. Is that a Jeep? That's a Jeep. His right wheel is bouncing like a basketball. It's like his suspension is shot. Control arm is bouncing violently. There was an unwritten rule in the Civil War that they left each other alone at night. That's why they would set up tents and have fires and eat. And then 2 miles away, the other side would do the same thing. And they would leave each other alone. It was kind of an unofficial rule. And they put guards out, and the guards would be looking for the guards of the other side because they would be exchanging mail, exchanging newspapers, and exchanging tobacco products for finished leather goods and stuff. They would literally go out in the woods and be calling out for each other to exchange stuff. I mean, that was just so unofficial like that. His death is portrayed in the movie Gettysburg. His friend, General Buford, portrayed by himself. No kidding. And he's your great great grandfather, correct? It's kind of cool to have family history to look back on. Great 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 granduncle got it. That's kind of cool. Talk about your great great this. When I was much younger, I worked with a guy who was literally angry that one of his forefathers hadn't gone out there and busted ass and taken names so he could be wealthy and he could ride the coattails of his success. He was angry about it, why they didn't, go out there and make it happen. I said, "Well, why don't you be the one that goes out there?" And he's like, "Well, I said, "Okay, that's the stock you come from, dude. That's your stock. And you're just more of the same." Yeah, he didn't like that. You could set up your grandkids, if you want to really go for it. But obviously you don't. Uh, Whoa, here we go. His sister was my grandmother's grandmother in Lancaster, PA. Right on. My mother was born in Warren, Pennsylvania, and I think she spent some time in Kitty as a kid, but she grew up in Western New York. From South Africa. No kidding. South Africa, right on. You are the first person from anywhere below. Wow, where was that one guy from? Oh, man, he was from Ethiopia. Yeah, Muhammad was from Ethiopia. Landolph Schultz, right on. Hey, what we're doing right now is we're expediting. This is truck driving in a box van. It's like the poor man's truck driving. And I'm doing a run from central Tennessee up into Pennsylvania right now, and I've got one crate in the back. I'm from Cape Town, right on. We're going to Pennsylvania for a drop off tomorrow. Oh, you have an uncle that's truck driving Nebraska. Give him my sympathies. That's cool. All right, so you know what's going on. And we're on Highway 81. We just crossed into Virginia, and we're just kind of strolling along here. And most people tune in just to see the scenery, see what it looks like. And I had a guy this morning that tuned in from India, and he was taken aback how different it looks. Big bunch of music in it will make you happy while driving. Yeah, you know, there's a thing. I like your thought process. YouTube gets their panties in a wad if you play music that isn't yours, and there is some kind of approved music you could play. And I have searched high and low, and I can't find it. And then when I find it, I got to figure out how to play it, because when you're live streaming, you can't play music off the phone. You can only do one or the other. You can't do both. I tried, trust me. And I can't record and play music. You can use the radio, but what are you going to find on the radio? So, and then I got to find out where the music is. And I Googled it. I still can't find it. USA is huge. South Africa is just the size of Texas. Well, Texas, if you picked up Texas, you could cover Western Europe like a blanket with it. You know, it's a big state. You can enter Texas from the east side on I-10 and drive like a lunatic all day, and when the sun goes down, you're still in Texas. And you could drive hard and fast if you're still in Texas. It's 1,000 miles, which I think is 1,600 kilometers across. You used to live in Portugal. It takes 6 hours to go from top to bottom. Wow. What town in PA? It's two words. It's called Lake Lynn. Lake, as you think. Lakeland? Yeah, it's Lynn. Or it's Parkland. Okay, now you're confusing me. Now I forgot the name. Hold on. I'm going to, don't tell me, Lake. Yeah, Lakeland. Lynn. And I have what my paperwork says are Dodge transmission parts. So what I'm thinking, if they're using an Expedite, what I'm thinking is there's a piece of machinery doing a job or road work or something, and something snapped, and they're shut down waiting on a part. That's my theory. Because they wanted this part like, now. Because otherwise you have to order it and wait. You probably have a whole work crew standing around waiting to do something. Sabine River to El Paso, 798. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's 10 over to El Paso. That's 12,000 miles, give or take. And I've driven that many times. You get out in West Texas, the speed limit's 80. Not that anybody's paying attention. Oh, whoops. See this guy in front of us turned his flashers on? That means he can't maintain speed. Or he felt himself. Who are you asking? Yeah, back and forth. Okay, he's back up to speed again. It's cool. Back to 62. Yeah, I gave my beautiful red bug, with the wing and the tinted windows, the nice wheels, and the high-end stereo, and uh, it had the high-end radar detector and the camera in it. Beautiful freaking 5-cylinder, 6-speed automatic, wonderful car. My daughter, my wife, our daughter lives in Oregon. She flew out, and we put the daughter and the wife in the car, and they did a cross-country trip with no little kids. And we gave her the car. We didn't need it anymore. They got to have a wonderful trip across the United States from Texas up into Oregon, went over the Rockies. So got to experiment with the car and its capabilities and its speed and its comfort. They had a really good time. Got to drive through snow. Got to race across the desert. They went to the some of the Utah salt flats. They had to have a lot of fun doing that. That was their cross-country trip. And I like to do trip planning. That's kind of my thing. So I got out the map, figured out how far to go, found their hotels, paid the reservation, and I gave them 3x5 cards for each day, where they were going, and here's your reservation number, here's the address, and made sure they had the Amex card for fuel, and gave them some cash to go play with, and I kind of plotted their trip for them because I like to do that thing. Oh yeah, uh, I've expedited to Oregon one time, and I drove zigzag up into the area, and I was going across Nevada on 80. You hit Winnemucca, and you head north on some secondary road. You go across the border. I think it's Idaho, maybe Idaho. And then you turn west and you cut through a park or a game reserve. It's a big desert area. And I talked about that with four ways on. Oh, is that how it works? He didn't drop down that low, but he was dropping down a little bit. And there's some kind of national, I guess it's a park, but it's desert. And I turned down that, and then I took off. And there was it was night, it was dark, and there's a little teeny tiny sign that said rest area. And I went, cool. I pulled in. It was a little sign. It was a big open space, and there was like, let's call it a sexy porta potty. And that's it. And I stopped, spent the night, woke up in the morning, and there was no trees, no cars, nothing. I'm in the middle of nothingness. Beautiful, rough terrain. And 250 miles going west, and I saw one vehicle going the other way on this road. That's how desolate it was. That might be it. North, I think that was it. 395 north out of Winnemucca, and then you go across the border and turn west. Whatever that area is right there. And I saw interest to look at, take pictures. I would stop the van and just leave it in the middle of the road. I didn't pull off because there was no point to it because there was nobody there. It was real rocky in certain areas. There was a jump off point I set for hang gliding. It was a neat area to drive through, especially going westbound when the sun was coming up behind me. It looked really, really cool. Entering Virginia's technology corridor. What does that mean? Ooh, what time? 8, 9? Oh, crap, it's too late. I was going to call the wife, but I think she's sawing logs. All right, well, I better call her. All right, I'm going to have to let this go. I thank you, everyone, for being here. I will hopefully be back on again. I might be tonight, I don't know. But tomorrow, if I'm moving around or I get to go to a museum, I'll absolutely come back on. Used to pick up at International Paper in Lewiston. I don't know. Yeah, okay. All right, like I said, I'm going to bail off here for now. I got to call the wife because she's going to be going to bed soon. But I'll catch up with you guys later. Take care.